Hey guys, welcome to the channel. As you see in the thumbnail, what if Issei was Angel Dragon and X Mirana X Jeanne? Before I start, please do support for more awesome content, and subscribe my channel and like this video. Go support and follow the Slavic warrior for writing that awesome fanfic, and also make sure to comment on this story. Link in the description. Let's start this video. Come on Issei dear, if we don't hurry we are going to miss our plane. The brown-haired older woman said to her small child that was running everywhere in the house. But mommy, I don't want to go to Europe and visit Aunt Luna and Uncle Theodore. A small boy around 5 said to his mother, as she just sighs in a tired fashion, as this was what usually happened when they were about to go outside cooked to visit family members. Issei, if you behave I will buy you that new game you wanted so much. Do we have a deal, love? Issei's mother asked him, making Issei stop for a moment before nodding vigorously with a huge smile on his face. Yeah! Issei shouted in pure excitement and joy. He only had a few games that he wanted to play badly, but his parents didn't want to buy him. That a boy, now go and help your father dear. I will pack your things. Issei's mother told him as he nodded and left to go help his father. Daddy, do you need my help? Little Issei asked as he entered a garage where his father was packing some stuff. Oh my, well sure little champ, can you pass me that box? Issei's father asked him, making Issei nod as he rushed towards the box his father pointed out. Getting close to the box that his father told him, Issei felt something calling out to him, but he just shrugged it off as his imagination, but the feeling got even more stronger than before as he got closer and closer to the box. Deciding to see what was calling him, Issei opened the box and saw a bunch of swords neatly packed and secured in it. Though before he closed the hatch of the box he saw one of the blades glow a faint blue, making Issei's eyes turn from brown to light blue before returning to normal. Seeing that his little son didn't get the box, Issei's father turned around and saw Issei looking at the content of the box and couldn't help but chuckle a bit. Walking over to him, he put a hand on his son's head and pat him gently, prompting Issei to look up at his father. Daddy, what are those swords for? He asked cutely, making Issei's father chuckle again. Those swords are for your uncle. He asked me to bring him some that would be good for his collection. And like you know, we have plenty of swords here, so I figured why not give him some that are only collecting dust. Though I can show them to you if you want before I pack them. His father asked as Issei nodded his head, making his father smile. Taking out the swords one by one, Issei's father showed his son his blades that he collected over the years. Issei was looking at the blades with admiration as they all looked cool to him. But when Issei's father brought the last one, Issei felt like something close to connecting with him, and the blade. The blade was a single-edged blade that pitches forward towards the point, while having its blade looked like it was made from light blue scales, while the edge being concave near. The hilt was white as a cloud, with a hilt that was from Issei's view made from gold, but convex near the point. The grip looked like a typically hook-shaped, the end was stylized in the shape of a dragon. Looking at the blade, Issei's arm unknowingly moved to take the blade, but before he could do it, his father returned it to the box, making Issei snap back to reality. Daddy, those blades look cool, Issei said, making his father smile. I'm glad you think that way. But now let's go eat and finish the packing before heading out. Issei's father said as both of them went to the kitchen to eat. After finishing eating and packing, Issei and his family were at the airport boarding a flight from Japan to Germany. As they took their seats side by side with Issei in the middle, Issei took out his notebook and started to draw, making Issei's father look at what his son was drawing and couldn't help but admire the picture that his 5-year-old son drew. It was a picture of a dragon with blue eyes and white scales soaring into the air with huge and powerful wings. Though the picture wasn't anything special, it was still good for a little child his age and something that made Issei's father proud. That is a pretty good picture, champ. What is that dragon's name? Issei's father said with a chuckle as Issei looked at the dragon he drew for a few moments before answering him. His name is Indrogner. Issei answered, not knowing why he said that name, but it sounded like he said it every day. That is interesting name, Issei's father said as he ruffled his son's hair, making him smile. With that said, both of them returned to what they were doing while they flew to Germany. It was about 6 hours into their flight, and the plane where Issei and his family was in was now over Russia, about to touch down on the international airport in Moscow for refueling and for the passengers to stretch their legs a bit, since they would have about 2 hours between takeoff for the pilot crew to change. As Issei and his family explored a bit of Moscow, they found themselves in the Red Square and Kremlin. As they were taking pictures and having a bit of fun, their free time quickly melted away as they soon found themselves in their seats again. But as they soon find out, their trip to Germany was about to take a turn for the worst. As they were flying over Russia and closing near the border with Belarus, a sudden unnatural storm hit the plane with a lot of force, as lightning and thunder flashed all over the place as the plane shook terribly. Many people were panicking, Some who traveled a lot were a bit calmer, but even they had a bit of fear as they never experienced a storm or a turbulence like this. It was a few minutes later that all hell let loose. As the plane was still flying, there was a huge explosion that was heard as some passengers that were near one of the wings saw to their horror a jet engine was on fire, prompting the plane to nosedive while spinning out of control as the engine next to the one that exploded and was also set on fire, and soon exploded, making the plane uncontrollable for the pilots, who tried everything in their power to at least stabilize the craft as it was falling towards the earth. For Issei, all of this was happening so fast and quickly as his emotions were all over the place as he feared for his life. Just as the plane was about to crash, he fainted. The next thing he saw when he awoke was a field of green grass with mountains in the distance, and clear blue sky. It looked peaceful and quiet, though that lasted for a few moments before he heard a sound of flapping wings and a wind picking up as he was looking everywhere to find the source, from where he heard the wings flapping. When young Issei's eyes spotted what made the sound, he froze. In the distance towards him was flying a huge dragon, but what made him froze was the fact that the dragon that was flying towards him was none other than the one that he drew not too long ago, and as the massive dragon got close to Issei, it started to lower himself slowly until his huge legs touched the ground, making it shake and in the process making Issei fall on his ass as his eyes went wide in admiration and fear as the dragon stood on his two back legs and roared so mighty that the whole Philids, Mount Haines and everything in its vicinity shook from its power and might. The said dragon was easily over 150 meters long, with his tail being easily 30 meters long, while his height on his all four was over 50 meters, with his wings having a wingspan of 75 meters. But on his last two legs that were all transformed, and it made the humongous dragon even more frightening and magnificent. He was covered in light blue scales that looked like they were made of diamonds, and had light blue eyes with dark golden reptilian slits in the middle. All in all, it gave the appearance of something that was not to mess with if you wanted to live. As the dragon lowered his head a little after his roar, it saw little Issei shaking from fear from the dragon's roar making that humongous dragon. Though Issei was surprised when he heard the dragon roar again, but this time it sounded more like it was laughing than the roar it was last time. Mr. Dragon, where I am? Who are you? Where are my mommy and daddy? Issei asked in a shaky voice which was full of fear of the mighty dragon. Looking at him again, the dragon lowered his head until it was on the ground and near Issei, who backed away from him. Young one, you don't need to fear me, the dragon told him in the voice that mighty and full of power but sounded smoothing to Issei. Why, you can talk? The child asked, getting the dragon to roar a bit in laughter. Yes, my child, I can talk and do so much more, but it's time I introduce myself. I'm Indrogner, the dragon of the sky and elements. Indrogner introduced himself as he lowered his huge wing down softly, creating a small tornado in its wake. Indrogner? Issei said in disbelief, as not too long ago he said that name to his father. Yes, young one, I'm that dragon that you drew on your flight. Even though you made it hideous, I will not be offended, as you are still a child, and you will learn to draw better. Indrogner answered him, making Issei go wide eyes before he collected himself and introduced himself. I'm Indrogner, it is a pleasure to meet you. I'm Issei hideout, Issei said with a bow of his head. Though, do you know where we are and where are my mommy and daddy? Issei questioned the dragon as he wanted to know. Child, what I'm going to tell you may be a shock, but you are in your mind. Your parents died in the plane crash. You only survived by my power that your emotions unlocked before the plane hit the ground. Indrogner answered his host with a sad and gentle tone as he saw Issei starting to cry and fell to his small knees. Today was by far the worst day Issei will ever have in his life. Done. As Issei was in his mind talking to Indrogner, in the real world, a few priests from the nearby church rushed to the scene of the explosion to see what caused it. As they got close to the epicenter of it, they got horrified at what they saw. Plane parts everywhere and human bodies were littered on all sides, and for those older priests who were born before the war, it looked like the scene from where everywhere they looked they found some dead bodies and everything was in flames. As they saw that there was no chance for someone to survive this, they started to pray for the souls that lost their lives tragically. Finishing the prayer, the priests decided to leave the place as they heard the fire truck, ambulance, and police coming to the crash site. As they were about to go back to their church, they felt a strange energy source coming to their right just in woods. Deciding to see what made that energy, they walked towards its source. When they saw what made that energy, they were relieved to find a boy in the woods still breathing. While he looked like hell, he was still alive, and that was what mattered. Deciding after a quick conversation between them to bring the boy to their abbey to heal him. As one of the priests lifted the boy, underneath him they found a glowing light blue blade that was releasing the energy that they felt. Taking the sword also with them, they started heading back to their abbey. Entering the abbey, the priests were immediately surrounded by the children and the head priest of the place. Igor, Tell me what caused that explosion, and who is this boy with you? The head priest asked as he looked at the boy, also feeling the boy's energy and power. The said head priest had long dark brown hair with some white in it, and chocolate eyes with a few wrinkles on his face showing that he was an older man. He also had a long black beard and was wearing a priest's clothes. What caused the explosion was a plane falling, and sad to say it looks like this boy is the only survivor of that crash. We found him in the woods just a few meters of the wreckage. It looks like this sword he has with him emitted some sort of barrier to protect him. Igor answered as he pointed to the sword, making the head priest's eyes go wide. Igor, you do know what this blade is, right? Asked the head priest again, making the younger one that had blonde hair and blue eyes shook his head in a negative way. This blade is the legendary Stormbringer that has a part of Indrogner's soul sealed in it. Then that would also mean that that boy has the other part of the dragon's soul in him. The head spoke as he looked closely at the boy that was in Igor's hands. Are you sure in that, Mihailo? For all we know, it could be that this boy just happened to land on the blade and it giving him the energy to survive until someone treats him. One of the older priests that had white hair and red eyes asked the head, making him nod. Yes, Ivan, I'm almost positively sure about this. I fought that blade once and I know what power it has. It will not save anyone that isn't its user, and will only come to aid him. Igor, get that boy to medical wing quickly and tell the nurses to check on him and make sure that boy is alive. The rest of you go back to what you are doing, Mihailo said, making everyone do what they were told. As the priest known as Ivan was about to go do what he was doing, Mihailo called him over. Ivan, could you come here for a moment, please? I have something I want to talk to you, Mihailo said as Ivan nodded his head. Of course, father, what is that you want to talk to me? Ivan asked as Mihailo started walking in the direction where his chamber is. Follow me. Was all that Mihailo said. He continued to walk towards his chamber with Ivan behind him. In the chamber of the Mihailo, both Ivan and him sat on a pair of seats, either one speaking for a few moments before Mihailo broke the silence. Ivan, I want you to train the boy when he is healed and well, Mihailo said, making Ivan go wide-eyed. Why would you want me to train him, Father Mihailo? Ivan asked, looking into chocolate eyes that were staring back in his red ones. I'm positive you are one of the Constantinopoli's best warriors in sword arts. It will be a good way for the boy to learn how to use Stormbringer and his powers. Mihailo answered him in a calm voice, making Ivan slowly nod his head. As you wish, father, but I already have a student, Mirana, and she is very shy of other people, especially those that she doesn't know. Ivan answered Mihailo, making the old man rub his beard in a thinking manner. And then I have a perfect way for her not to be shy of him. Tell her that she will get a new roommate and a new partner in training soon, Mihailo said, making Ivan start to laugh. Oh, I do hope she doesn't kill him, but it will be done, father. Is that all you wanted to talk to me? Ivan said, making Father Mihailo nod. That is it, Ivan. I'm sorry if I took your time from doing anything else, Mihailo said, making Ivan shock his head. You don't need to worry, father, all is well. Now if you excuse me, I will go tell Morana the news. Ivan told him in a chuckle as he bowed a bit, and left, leaving Mihailo to sit down and take a shot of vodka to calm himself, as he could feel that from this now, today was going to be very heretic. Meanwhile, in the medical wing, Issei was being treated for his injuries as the doctors and nurses were going over his physical state to prevent anything going haywire. As Issei's body was treated, Issei was in his mind with Indrogner, who was explaining to him all that transpired and all he knew about supernatural. To say Issei was shocked would be an understatement of the millennium. When the dragon told him what happened and that he was the only survivor, Issei cried like there was no tomorrow, and the only thing that the dragon could do was offer his tail to the boy to hug it, and to cry on it as much as he wanted. After he cried as much as he could, Issei calmed down a bit to hear what dragon told him about supernatural, and after finishing, Issei was so much out of it that the dragon didn't know how to bring him back for a good minute or so after he finished his explanation to him. As Issei returned back to his senses, he slowly and carefully asked the mighty dragon, So I presume that sword that was calling out to me was your part of the soul that was sealed away, right? That is correct, child. As I already told, my soul was cut and sealed in 2 items, and you have both of them. One part of my soul is connected to yours, and when you wish to use it will appear as plate of armor on your, and the other is in that sword that you felt calling you. Normally we couldn't see or communicate with each other like this with only one piece, but since you have both we could talk to each other like this. Indrogner told him, making Issei nod. And if I don't have a blade with me, I can't talk to you then, right? Issei asked, hoping to be proven wrong. No, you can talk to me normally even if you leave the blade elsewhere. You would only need the blade for our first connection. Since we did it, we can now talk any time and place. The dragon answered him, making Issei smile as he hugged the dragon's tail as tightly as possible. Yay! He yelled in joy as he was happy that he still had at least someone left. Now child, I will leave you to rest. If my calculations are correct, you should awake in about day or two. Indrogner told him, making Issei nod as all went turning black. It was 2 days later that Issei started to awake slowly from his slumber, and as the machine started to beep loudly, Issei started to groan at its loudness. Slowly opening his eyes, he was assaulted by blinding light that forced him to put one of his hands to his eyes to dim them a bit. As he slowly adjusted to light, Issei looked around, seeing that he was in what he could tell was a hospital wing. Looking over his body, he saw that he had a few wires attached to his arms and torso that were connected to some machines that were beeping. It didn't take more than a minute as some of the doctors rushed in his room to see what the commotion was about, and when they saw him awake they had a big sigh of relief that the young boy was all right and awake. Quickly taking a few tests to ensure he was all right, the doctors called Father Mihailo and Priest Ivan to come and see the boy. As the two mentioned arrived, the doctors bowed to them before exiting the room to give some privacy them. Looking at the boy who was now awake, Mihailo could practically feel the raw power coming out of him, and he would have to admit that he was surprised by its amount. Deciding to break the silence that was uncomforting, Mihailo took a chair that was in a corner of the room and sat near Issei, while Ivan decided to stand just behind Mihailo as Mihailo started speaking. "Can you understand me, my boy?" Mikhail softly said, and wasn't that surprised to find out that Issei didn't know what he said. Heaving a tired sigh, Mihailo turned to Ivan, who was behind him. "Ivan, please go and collect Kai. I think he can help us with this," Mihailo told him as he just nodded and left while Issei lowered his head a bit in sadness. It didn't take long for Ivan to return as he was followed by a young man in his 20s that looked a bit Japanese and had short black hair and ice blue eyes that would creep anyone out. As the young man looked at Father Mihailo, he bowed his head a bit in respect that made an old man smile a bit. "Ah, Kai, is a pleasure to see you again. I'm sorry if I diverted your attention from other things you were doing to help this old man," Mihailo said, making Kai shook his head. "Not at all, Father Mihailo. It's always a pleasure to help you. So what can I help you this time?" Kai answered respectively. "You are knowledgeable with Japanese, I assume?" Mihailo asked, getting a nod from the youth. "I would like for you to talk to this young boy here and see if you can find out everything about him that would be helpful for both sides," Mihailo told him, getting Kai to nod before his attention switched to Issei, whose head was still down. Smiling a bit, Kai started to talk to Issei in a calm and friendly manner in Japanese that made Issei somewhat relaxed and make him slowly smile, as Kai was making sure to slowly extract information from him without being forceful, while making small jokes whenever he found Issei to have a frown or looked uncomfortable. The conversation between the two was slow and long, but in the end, it paid dividend as Kai told Father Mihailo and Ivan all that he learned from little Issei. While both old men had a sad face on their faces, they saw an opportunity to help Issei not feel alone and the church to have another member that would prove to be a good addition to them. So it was decided that Kai would help Issei learn Russian while also teaching him the God's teaching. With that and the all clear from the doctors, Issei was released from hospital wing and escorted by Kai and Ivan to his new room, where he would stay from now on. As they got near the room Issei would be staying, Ivan told them good night as it was late and left for his own quarters, leaving the two alone. Entering Issei's room, Issei was surprised to see it all clean white walls that had a few posters from what Issei could tell was from some music band, but other than regular things that one can find in a common room, there wasn't anything special. Feeling mischief a bit, Kai decided to sneak out of the room before Issei could notice him, and quietly closing the door, leaving Issei to the mercy of the other roommate that was about to soon enter it. As Issei took off his shoes, he decided to go take a shower before going to sleep. As he was in process of taking off his shirt, he heard the door opening and a loud scream before he felt a punch to his stomach and pain that erupted from it. Quickly putting his shirt and covering behind the bed where he was flown to, Issei saw a beautiful blonde girl that was about a few centimeters shorter than him, with gorgeous gray eyes with a bit of blue in them. She was wearing, from what he could tell, was something that looked like a body swimsuit that showed off her gorgeous hourglass figure and her curves that made Issei madly blush to see her. Though her eyes may be beautiful, but he knew they had fury and rage in them that, from what Issei could tell, were directed at him, and knowing that he couldn't understand anything she said and vice versa, he could only hope that someone would come to save him from this girl. But to his misfortune there was no one that could hear him, and as the girl started to say something to him that he didn't understand, he could only hope to survive what was about to happen. It was several years since Issei's screams of pain echoed throughout the church in Russia. From that day all the way up to now, Issei still blames Kai for that beating he got from the small blonde girl that was his roommate. Though he didn't know it then, but that small little blonde girl and him will be one of the best fighters on Angel's side of the Christian pantheon. During his years of living in Russia, Issei learned how to speak and read the said country language. He was taught all of its history, culture, and the God's teaching. Issei was also taught how to use his sword, the Stormbringer, and how to use his sacred gear, of course with Indrogner's help. And some in the Orthodox Church started calling him a prodigy sword master for his fast learning and grace when he held the said legendary weapon that was said it brought terror to those foolish enough to come across it in a fight. Issei, after being trained by Ivan with Kai's and Mirana's help, managed to beat almost everyone he crossed his blade with. The only ones he couldn't beat was his instructor, Kai, who he viewed as an older brother, and Mirana, who after sharing a room for several years, started to have a soft spot in his heart for the cute and shy blonde that loved to tease the shit out of him and make him blush every time she got the chance. It wasn't uncommon for Issei and Mirana to be seen taking a walk, talking, laugh, or just guffing around in their free time, but it was also clear that no one could even lay a finger on Mirana, since Issei was extremely territorial towards her and anyone who tried anything with her. And to some it was like a dragon defending his treasure that was priceless to him. But the same could be said for Mirana, as she clearly showed that any other female exorcists who tried to flirt with Issei were in a way threatened by the blonde, as she also started to have feelings for the boy that was showing her kindness even after her beating him almost to a pulp and managing to break her shell that she was constantly surrounded by, metaphorically speaking. Her shy nature, which was her trademark, was still present, but when she was with him, her shy nature was replaced with a more teasing and bold one, and seeing him blush to her words or deeds was something that in her opinion was making him even cuter and desirable. And today was no different, as Mirana was in her teasing mood while they were having their midday break before separating for their training schedule and class. Mirana, you really need to stop doing this," yelped the now 15-year-old Issei as he was trying, but failing, in getting free from the 16-year-old Mirana, who was hugging him hard while pressing her impressively growing breasts to his side while her head was on his shoulder. "Never," Mirana told him cutely as she started to pat his head with affection, while pressing herself even more into Issei, who was blushing from embarrassment even more. He would admit that he found her body very attractive, and her smile adorable. He will never admit it out loud, but after spending years with her in the same room and watching her body transform from the small cute girl to a very beautiful teen with the body that would put every female to shame he saw so far, he started to have some pervert thoughts about her. But he always managed to keep them in himself, as he was afraid of getting the beat down he got when he first entered their room. But he was sure that Mirana also knew that, and that she was torturing him just for fun. "Why are you torturing me like this?" Issei asked as she just giggled and whispered in his ear, making him shiver a bit. "Because I love seeing your cute embarrassed face much more than that straight face you have usually," Mirana answered him before kissing his cheek and standing up readying to go to her class. While Issei blushed madly at her affection, making her giggle again. She was really wondering when he would get used to her kissing him every once in a while. Even though it was always to the cheek, he would always blush so much that she would have a hard time to hold the laughter in her. He saw her in almost every way posable, from battle and training clothes to underwear, and she was at first freaked out when she saw his member almost tearing his pants, but later learned that it was because he found her attractive and hot, which made her happy. Yeah, you just like to torture me," Issei told her, still red, as he also stood up. I see you really think I would hurt my adorable and cute roommate?" Mirana exclaimed in a fake hurt voice as she put both her hands over her heart, while having a cute pouting face that was almost irresistible for Issei not to give in. "That won't work, you know. I know that you are waiting for an opportunity to make me even more embarrassed or worse," Issei told her firmly while crossing his arms, as he was trying very hard not to give in, as she started to give him a sad puppy look with her gray eyes, making it like she was about to cry. "Oh, I see you are really wounding me now. What have I ever done to you that would make you think like that?" Mirana asked in fake hurt voice again, while getting closer to Issei with her lips twitching a bit to make him feel guilty, as he hurt her feelings. Though while most men would feel a bit guilty, Issei wasn't like most, as he knew her game, and for some odd reason it was something that he was enjoying, as they would later laugh it off. But now was not the time for their game, as the classes would start, and they would be in serious trouble. "As much as I would like for us to continue this, Mira, we really should get going or we'll be in trouble again," Issei said, as Mirana just pouted cutely again before she smirked a bit. Okay, but you are treating me to some ice cream later," she told him, making him smile and nod. "Sure." With that, both of them separated and went to class, though throughout the classes the information was announced that both Issei and Mirana need to report to the head priest's quarters. With the go, both of them left their classes and went to the assigned place. Entering the Mihailo's quarters, they were greeted by Mihailo, who was sitting at the large table, and when he saw them couldn't help but smile warmly to the two kids that he saw as his own. "Enter and take a seat, you two. There is something that we need to discuss. And don't worry, it isn't anything that bad," Mihailo told them in a soft and gentle voice, as he saw the worry that they might screw things up, which knowing them wouldn't be the first time. "Then what do we owe the honor of you calling for us, Father Mihailo?" Issei asked as he and Mirana took the seats near each other at the same table. Ah, yes, I forgot that you always host straight to the point. Very well, I will tell you both. Heaven is having some trouble with some stray priests, and some low-class angels that recently have fallen out of grace for reasons that are not to be discussed. Your mission is to capture or eliminate all that won't come back peacefully. The information that was provided to us is that they are somewhere near the Vatican/Constantinople border near the town of Krakow. You got the permission from heaven to, if need, enter the Vatican's territory to do the mission. If need be, you can call for help at any time and the nearest church will send you the aid. Understood? You will leave in 2 days. Better get packing for it. Mihailo briefed them on it, making them go wide eyes from it. After all, the training was one thing but the real deal was something else. And while they'd been to a few missions, they were always watchers on standby, but this time they were going in alone and to the border of their domain. It was nerve-wracking, to say the least for them, and Mirana was the one to voice it. But Father Mihailo, are you sure it is wise to send us two to do it? I'm not saying that we are not capable. But Mirana wanted to say more, but Mihailo stopped her with his hand. Yes, I'm sure it would go without any trouble. You two are the best youth exorcists we have here, and it would be good for both of you to gain much-needed experience in the field, as training will get you to a point where you will suffer in a battle, and with this being an easy mission you will gain far more from it. And to make sure you succeed, I will contact the Constantinople and ask for them to see if the Vatican can send someone also who is in need of some experience. Mihailo answered her, making her bit her lips before she looked over to Issei, who just softly sighed before nodding his head, making her heavy sigh. If you say so, I think it would be good to have one more person joining us, if it okay with you, Father Mihailo. Issei spoke with respect, making the old man nod before dismissing them. Good, then I will call you before your departure for final information. You are excused from class in the meantime. Enjoy your time before mission. Mihailo told them, making them nod before they left, leaving him alone with his thoughts. As they exited the main church building, both Mirana and Issei were quiet as they were in their thoughts about this mission that was assigned to them. Like how Mirana said, they were not strangers to missions, but they were always kept back like the last resource if the situation was extremely dire, but this was very much different. It was the first time that they were sent to do a mission without any senior priest or exorcist to help them. They were in a true sense of the word alone. As they continued to walk in silence, they were met with none other than Kai, who was now having his period off and was just walking around the grounds to pass the time. Seeing them, Kai smiled before he frowned, seeing the solemn look on their faces. Deciding to find what made them look so serious, Kai approached them slowly. Now what do we have here? My little brother and his beautiful girlfriend. What happened to you two to look so serious? You had a fight again? Kai shyly asked them, startling them before they registered what he said about them, making them blush. Big brother, we are not dating, we are just friends. Issei answered quickly, though the thought of him and Mirana being together has crossed his mind a few times. But he rejected that idea as he was sure that Mirana would be better off with someone that is much better than him. Why yes, we are just friends, nothing more. Mirana also chipped in, but there was a small tone of disappointment that she was just a friend to him, and not something much more. While how Mirana said and with what tone she managed to say it passed over Issei, it was another matter to Kai. He could clearly see the longing in Mirana's voice that was present, as he knew that the blonde-haired beauty was having a hard time controlling herself, not wanting to mess the friendship and in fear of it ruining it with him. Kai was sure that he needed to talk to his little brother figure about opening his eyes a bit for the feeling about the girl next to him that was slowly falling more and more in love with the youth. He was honestly surprised that he didn't claim Mirana when he reached puberty, as his dragon side was clearly stronger since as they saw the girls swarming Issei with their attempts to be with him. And from the looks of things, Mirana was the one most affected by his aura, and it clearly showed by how territorial she would become when Issei was in the presence of another girl. Deciding to talk his little bro later, Kai just nodded for now. Okay, and now what is it with those faces? Kai asked again. That would be us going alone on a mission where we would need to capture or kill stray priests or exorcists with a few low-class angels that are now fallen. Issei responded to Kai's question, making the said man just sigh. Ah, I see what is the problem. Kia spoke, making the duo look at him strangely, prompting a chuckle from the said man. And what is the problem then? Mirana asked, wanting to know. It's simple really. You would need to most likely kill, and since you guys are still virgin and that it will be hard for you, that is what is making you feel uncomfortable in the back of your mind. Also, the chance of one of you getting hurt is another thing that is also making you uneasy. I should know, I was doing the same task as you guys are doing now, and it wasn't easy. Kai explained it to them, making them widen their eyes before looking at each other quickly before averting their gaze while having red cheeks. Now with that done, why don't we hang a bit? I'm bored and I would be very much glad to have you two to make me some company. Provided that you two don't start making out in front of me. Kia said cheekily, making the duo have steam coming from their ears as they glared at Kai, who chuckled until Issei bought his Stormbringer, which glowed light blue as clouds started to gather as Mirana formed two light swords with intent to make Kai into a kobold, who started to pale a bit and slowly back away from the duo. And now G guys, take it easy IIW, as only joking Kai stuttered as Issei slowly lifted his blade up while thunder was heard and a lightning bolt hit near Kai's feet, making him look at him with wide eyes, though he really started to be scared for his well-being when Mirana spoke. "If you wanna live, are you in?" she yelled as both Issei and her charged at Kai, who started running as hell away from the enraged couple as possible. 2 days have passed since Mirana and Issei learned that they would be sent to do a mission, and now they were in their battle gear ready to go to Poland to do it. Though before heading off they went to Mihailo to hear the latest info he had to give them before going. Clearing his throat, Mihailo looked at the two youths in front of him, and was pleased to see them ready to do a possibly dangerous mission. They were in the regular church battle suits, with Mirana in what can be said was a latex suit that covered her entire body, showing off her gorgeous curves, and Issei in his priest clothes that were instead of white and light blue color to symbolize the dragon that was like a father to him. "Well, I have some good news and some bad. What do you want to hear first, my children?" Mihailo asked them, making them look at each other before Issei spoke. "Good news first, sir." "Well, good news is that the Vatican is sending someone to help you. They said that she is a prodigy also, and has a powerful and very useful gear that may help a lot," Mihailo said, making them smile. "That is good, Father Mihailo." Mirana spoke, making him nod before he frowned a bit, making the duo gulp a bit. "The bad news is that the Vatican already sent her to Poland and lost track of her. Your mission was altered a bit. You need to save her and make sure that she is alive at any cost while capturing or killing the infidels. Her name is Jeanne d'Arc," Mihailo solemnly told them while giving them the picture of the said girl as they saw her. She looked similar in some parts like Mirana, with beautiful blonde hair, Gouge's hourglass figure that could be seen from the photo, and had baby blue eyes and a beautiful smile on her face. She was seen in the photo wearing a battle suit with a rapier in her hand, with the photo being full body one. What? How? They explained in shock. "Sadly, yes, that is what I got from them. From the looks of things, she was ambushed and captured. You need to hurry. The helicopter is waiting for you. It will drop you at her last location. God bless you and good luck," Mihailo said as the duo said their goodbyes and sprinted towards the helicopter to get to the location as fast as possible. As the helicopter raced through the night sky towards Poland, the two passengers were praying to God that Jeanne, the girl sent to help them, would be all right and alive by the time they arrive. As they neared the last location where Jeanne last contacted the Vatican, the sense of danger was very high on their minds. It took almost 2 hours for them to arrive at the location near the city of Krakow. As they landed on the ground, both were already on high alert with their weapons at the ready. Looking around them, they could clearly tell that there was a battle here. The surrounding area was filled with craters and fallen trees. As they searched the site for any clues that could tell them where to go, it was Issei's dragon that decided to point out the way to where he felt fallen presence. "Child, there is some fallen presence to the northwest of you in that forest. Best to be on the lookout, you two." Indrogner spoke, making both Mirana and Issei look at ladders, where an armor plate with a ball in the center glowed brightly blue. "You sure, Indro?" Issei asked, making the dragon growled in affirmative. "Yes, I can sense them easily. We dragons have much better sense than other supernatural beings," Indrogner answered, making Issei nod as he turned towards Mirana, who was looking at the direction that was pointed out to them. "I see, let's go. The faster we get there, the faster we can finish this mission and save Jeanne," Mirana said, making him nod as they both started walking towards Jeanne's position. As they started to get deeper and deeper in the forest, they could hear some voices in a distance. Deciding to keep a low profile and to use the element of surprise that they thought they have, with the voices getting louder and louder, Issei and Mirana hid in nearby bushes and started to creep slowly towards the voices. Getting in their sights, they saw a huge campsite that had a few outposts around it. Timing their presence as best as they could, they started to wait what will happen and to look for an opening to attack. As the hour passed, seeing that nothing was happening, Issei started to lose patience, as he just couldn't just sit idle and pray for the blonde girl to be alright. "Mirana, it looks like we need to make the first move. Let's split up and attack from both sides," Issei whispered to her, making her look at him with wide eyes. "No!" she hissed, making Issei glare at her. "We can't wait any more, Mira. If we wait for another hour, she could be dead, and I don't want that to happen, do you?" Issei hissed back with a glare, making her bit her lips hard before reluctantly nod. "Fine, we will do it your way then," Mirana answered, making Issei nod. "Okay then, I will go to the other side of this encampment. When you feel my power rising, you then attack, alright?" Issei explained his plan to her. "Okay, but we don't know where she is, I see," Mirana said, making him groan. The one you are looking for is in the main tent. I can feel her sacred gear. Indrogner told them, making them smile a bit before they got serious again. Thank you, Indra. Well, now we know Mira. I will start moving to keep out of sight, okay, and stay safe. Issei said before attempted to move. But before he could move away from her, Mirana grabbed his arm firmly and spun him around to face her before she slammed her lips to his, making him widen eyes. He expected her to hug him, or something similar, but to kiss him, it was something that he didn't expect at all. As he was so lost in the kiss, Mirana took the opportunity and put her arms around his neck and deepened the kiss. She poured all the emotions she held for him in that kiss, as she was afraid that their first mission could also be their last. The kiss wasn't long or complicated, but it was full of pent-up emotions that were needed to be released, so that if she was to die, at least she would have one thing accomplished. As they separated from each other, Issei was still in shock so much that Mirana couldn't help but softly giggle at his expense, and as he heard her giggles he snapped out of it, but before he could say anything Mirana put a finger on his lips softly. We'll talk about this later, now we have another blonde to save. So, let's get in position, alright darling? She softly told him as he just sighs and started moving towards the other side, finding a good place for an attack. As the church duel was about to attack, in the camp, a small blonde-haired girl with baby blue eyes and a torn battle suit was tossing around and yelling, tied to a cross by heavy-duty chains. Around her were a few excommunicated exorcists, and a few of the fallen who were starting to get sick of her. You little shit better shut up, or one male fallen with jet black hair and dark red eyes wearing an angel's clothes said, making the blonde stop her tossing and yelling to look at her with a death glare. Or what? She yelled again, making another male fallen, this time a blonde with black eyes, to step closer to her as and put his hand on her neck. Or you aren't going to die pure, that is for sure. All of us will go through you literally, and then we will take your gear as painfully as possible, he said with complete evil in his voice, smirking as the girl had her eyes wide in fear at what he implied. She quickly shut up, not to get raped by over 20 males. Well, looks like you are smart as you are beautiful. Good girl, he said with a chuckle. Barton, we still have 2 hours before the ritual can begin. Why not let us have some fun with her? She is going to die anyway, might as well show her what it is like before she is dead, the fallen from before said, making the one that talked to Jeanne put his hand on his chin for a moment. He then grinned, making Jeanne stare at him in fear as she started to toss around and to yell with all of her might again. Someone help me! As her yell ended, they all felt a strong energy rising quickly, making them be on guard before they heard shouts of pain and screams of fear from the outside of the tent. Quickly rushing outside, they saw a brown-haired boy with a falcata that glowed blue and an armor on the about to kill one of their own. But before the boy could take the life of one of his comrades, they all heard the scream of a female that made the boy stop and look in the direction of the scream. Seeing his friend with a light sword near her neck, she had both her arms behind her with her battle suit in a tatters. Drop the weapon and step away, before I slice this bitch's throat, one of the fallen yelled, making the boy glare at him but complied, letting go of his weapon, making the fallen to get up before hitting him in the face hard, making the boy fall into the dirt face first. What the happened here? Barton asked, the commotion seized with a boy on the ground pinned by the one that punched him and the girl thrown in front of him. Barton, those two assaulted us. We managed to quickly take care of the girl, but that boy managed to push through all the way here. Luckily no one is dead, but some were knocked out and 2 or 3 are missing an arm or a leg, but that the extension of damage done, the fallen with white hair answered, making Barton raise an eyebrow at what he was told. So let me get this straight, sirs, a boy managed to defeat almost 6 of us with ease, and you couldn't stop him? Barton asked, the white hair fallen named Cyrus making him flinch a bit at what was said. In our defense, he has a powerful dragon's sacred gear, and it looks like he is trained exorcist, so you can let us a bit of the hook, Cyrus replied, making Barton pinch his nose a bit trying to disappear his anger. Fine, though what about this cute blonde? He asked, getting another fallen to answer. It looks like that the girl is with the boy now, bitch. Who are you two and what are you doing here? I will never tell you www. Mirana answered before she cried in pain as the fallen kicked her in the stomach hard. Better answer, or you will end up like this blondie also, deflowered and dead. Barton said, as he got closer to Mirana and kneed down to her. No, Mirana answered weakly, trying to get her breath back from the kick. Have it your way. Well, let's get this boy up, he may be more of a talker. Cyrus, wake him up, Barton ordered, as Cyrus sent a small electric shock to Issei, making him let out a small scream before trying to get up, only to find himself pinned down. Now that you are awake, boy, how about you save your blonde friend from a terrible fate and answer a few questions? Sounds good? Barton said, making Issei glare at him. What are you two doing here? He asked, though Issei stayed silent. Seeing no answer, he mentioned one of the fallen to put a bit of pain to the girls, causing Issei to widen his eyes in horror, as they screamed. You better kill me now, or you will be dead, Issei dangerously replied, making Barton chuckle a bit. Tempting, truly tempting, but I think there is a better way to make all three of you suffer. Now answer the questions I will ask, or that blonde comrades of yours will get how we could say be deflowered by all of us while you watch, before we cut their throats, and then kill you. Barton said sadistically, making all three church members gasp. Fine, I will talk. What do you want to know? Issei said in defeat, making Mirana and Jeanne gasp. I see, don't. They will kill you also. Both girls said, but just Barton chuckled. I may be a fallen, but I still have my honor. I will not kill him if I like the answers. Now, the first question is, who are you two? He asked. I'm Issei Hideout, and the girl with me is Mirana Shadorova. Issei answered, receiving a nod from Barton. Good, what are you doing here? To capture or kill you while saving Jeanne. Issei answered, but Barto start laughing while Jeanne gasps with fear in her eyes. Now that is funny. How do you plan to do that when you are pinned down to the ground? Let me go, and I will show you. Issei told him, though Barto found it amusing and laughed it off. Nope. Not gonna do that, but lift him up so he could see the fate of his friends. Barton said, the girls now horrified at what this fallen was planning, while Issei gritted his teeth as he was yanked upon his knees. With Issei in the position that Barton wanted, he made his way toward Mirana and Jeanne, and with a nod to the fallen that hold the two girls, they ripped their clothes off completely while bending them down. Now time to look at what would happen to the girls, Issei. Enjoy the show, hee. Barton laughed, seeing the horrified look on Issei's face before he turned towards the girls. No! Both girls shouted in unison, as the fallen positioned themselves behind them. Issei, help! Mirana and Jeanne shouted, snapping Issei out of his horrified shock before the deadly cold aura washed over them all. At that moment, everything stopped. Everyone started looking around them from where the strong and deadly aura was coming. And it didn't take long for them to find the source. One holding Issei started to scream in pain, causing them all to look at the boy with horrified expressions on their faces. The boy's aura started to grow even more powerful, completely terrifying everyone as his eyes and hair turned from brown to light blue, while his face donned a dark smile that sent shivers down the fallen's spines. Quickly! Kill him! Barton shouted. The some fallen quickly created a few light spears and threw them at Issei at high speed, but to their shock, the spears disappeared as soon as they touched his aura. Issei, however, started to put pressure with his aura on all of them, especially on the one that was holding him. As soon as Issei was released, he slammed his elbow into the man's gut before turning around quickly and grabbing his throat, ripping it off with ease as the eyes of his captor lost all the light they had. Chuckling to himself, Issei lifted his right arm above his head. His blade formed in his hand as the plate also appeared on him. Indrogner roaring the dreaded words for the fallen. Eternal storm, balance breaker. With those words roared by the mighty dragon, Issei's aura completely enveloped Issei, as the power and presence continued to get even more and stronger. As the aura started to swirl around him, Issei felt armor around him started to form. It took about few seconds for it to explode, sending the closest of the fallen away from him. From the explosion, Issei immersed in his dragon armor that was shining in the dark with such gleam that made Mirana and Jeanne blush a bit even in their states. He was covered in an armor that looked like it was from dragon scales, all interlocked with his shoulder blades rising spikes from the base. His hands and knees also summoned spikes that looked sharper than the sharpest sword in the world. Even the hands became its dragon claws, its razor-sharp nails so sharp that they could decapitate a head, even the lightest swing of them. Look up Dragon Princes from Warhammer for the look of the armor for a better description. Only the helmet is like Drake's without the mustache. All in all, only a slight look of him in his armor made everyone pale. They even started to back up in pure fear as they felt that Dragon's wrath is about to be unleashed on them, that no one will survive his slaughter. Issei started to walk slowly towards them, in his armor and his Stormbringer in his hand. The clear night started to get a lot darker as the unnatural storm was starting to form above them with huge thunderstorms and heavy rain clouds. He again lifted his sword slightly. The huge lightning hit the ground, scorching a few angels that were unlucky to move in time. All that remained from them are ashes. Seeing his comrades killed with hardly any movements by the boy, Barton ordered a full charge at him, who started to laugh darkly as he tightened his grip on the blade, and started to parry sword and spear strikes from the fallen. Dodging a sword swipe, Issei quickly swung his armored hand in retaliation, slashing him across while with his sword he impaled one from behind between his eyes, making the former scream before his head was cut clean, while the latter instantly fell to the ground lifeless. Seeing their comrades dead by the hands of a youth, other fallen angels went into rage and fury, as they again attempted to kill Issei from the distance, which failed again. Only this time by the armor, from the looks of things, is just too sturdy and hard. They then turned to a frontal assault, which would prove to be their biggest mistake as Issei created a fog, making him invisible to others. One by one, the fallen were slain. The lucky ones were those that got their head cut immediately. Those unlucky are the ones who were chopped piece by Issei, who in his rage even used the remains of his enemies to kill and strangled his opponents. As the last cry of pain and terror was heard from the fog, the said fog started to fade away, leaving the sight that made Mirana and Jeanne green, while Barton and Cyrus were left shaking in their boots at what they saw. Bodies, intestines, heads, you name it, there was on the small field where Issei stood. His pristine blue armor was now dirty, soaked with the crimson blood of his dead enemies, that are now laying behind him with Stormbringer's shining royal blue while covered also in blood. That was pathetic. I hope you two will give me a better fight, before I cut you into pieces and feed you to the wolves, Issei said, as he emerged from the fog with a dark, almost demonic tone, along with the powerful dragon's aura swirling around him. The tone in which Issei spoke sent shivers of dread and fear to the remaining fallen duo, while Mirana and Jeanne shivered also, but were glad that he was alive. Seeing that this boy just literally massacred their crew, Cyrus and Barton started to move forward with fear replaced by fury and intensive killing intent, directed towards the boy. Unleashing their wings, both Mirana and Jeanne gasped, seeing that the two left were 8-winged fallen angels, meaning that they were extremely powerful. But to Issei, they were just cannon fodder as he sprinted towards them at the speed that was unmatched. You little piece of shit, I was going to kill you quickly, now I'm going. Cyrus started to threaten, only to be stopped by a powerful punch to the gut, courtesy of Issei, who was in front of him faster than the blink of an eye. Quickly delivering a powerful punch to the guts, Cyrus was sent flying past Mirana and Jeanne to the tent behind them, destroying it. Issei quickly dodged a light sword that Barton swung before he backed off, before beginning to form a tornado-like attack at him with his sword, which prompted Barton to dodge it, while Cyrus swiftly returned and started to attack Issei with his spear of light, while the girls were in fear for Issei. Issei, on the other hand, was handling the situation with ease. Every time one would try to strike him down, he would just dodge and attack the other with the hilt of his blade, or with his fist. In Issei's mind, he was only one thing: dish out as much damage to them before killing them. That is how much fury and rage he has for the two fallen angels that were left. As the battle continued, with Issei smashing his fists, boots, and head into them, he decided to finish them off, but what someone normal would think was to just pierce them. To Issei, however, that was a too kind thing to do, so to the horror of the girls, Issei started to slip into his hidden sadistic side even more, as he used his clawed hand to stop the sword strikes, before using Stormbringer to cut Barton's arm off, completely making him scream in pain. My arm, Barton shouted in pain and agony. With damage done and Barton laying on the ground, Issei quickly turned towards Cyrus. Cyrus was now extremely pissed off at the youth, who was playing with them, creating dozens of spears in the air and let them loose on Issei, who in return started to spin his blade in his hand extremely fast and parrying the spears as they got near him, destroying them on the spot. Getting bored of this, Issei just rushed at him before ducking under the spear swipe, using the moment to cut Cyrus' legs off, making the said fallen fall to the ground in screams of agony. My legs, you shit, you cut my L, Cyrus shouted in pain before he was stopped by Issei, who pierced his mouth with Stormbringer, ending the life of a pathetic fallen in an instant. Finally he stopped yapping. Now that leaves only you, Barton, right? Well, your name doesn't matter really, you will be dead anyway. But unlike your friend here, I will enjoy chopping you down, Issei demonically said as he started to slowly walk closer towards injured Barton, who started to crawl away from Issei slowly. No, you monster, stay away from me, Barton shouted as he was still crawling away from Issei, who was enjoying the fear and dread of him. I'm a monster? I don't think I'm a monster, but I will tell you what I am. I am a dragon who you splendidly pissed off by trying to have your way with two girls, one of which happens to be the girl I love, Issei told him, as he planted his foot on Barton, stopping him in his tracks, while Mirana had her eyes wide that he was in love with her. No, release me, you monster, Barton shouted again, but Issei just removed his helmet for Barton to see his eyes, that were shining royal blue and radiated power. Tempting, truly tempting, Issei spoke before he darkly grinned, swinging his sword, chopping the other arm from Barton, who cried in agony again. Ah, now that is music to my ears, you cried wonderfully, Issei said, forcing Mirana and Jeanne to widen their eyes at how Issei was enjoying torturing the beaten enemy. Should I cut your leg next? Or stab you to death? Choices, what to do, Issei thought out loud, prompting Jeanne and Mirana to finally find their voices that they thought they lost when Issei went into a rampage. Issei! The two shouted, prompting Issei to snap his head towards them, allowing them to see his blue eyes and blue hair that made the girls want to blush, but somehow managed to hold it in them. What? Issei roared, scaring the girls. Please, Issei, love, you beat him, you won. Please, for my love, calm down, Mirana shouted to him, making him look at her and then at Jeanne, who nodded her head furiously, making Issei take a few extremely deep breaths. Fine, you win. But this bastard is going to die, Issei said. Before anyone could say anything to stop him, Issei swung his blade again, chopping the poor fallen angel's head in two, before he released his breaker and started to walk weakly towards the two girls. Getting closer to them, he clearly saw that what he did hit a core in them, making them look at him in fear and dread, which made him sadly and weakly sigh as he used his Stormbringer to cut the magic ropes that bounded the two girls before he fell to the ground, utterly drained, with Mirana being the first to shout his name as he fell to the ground. As Issei woke up, he felt like someone hit him on the head with a warhammer, while his body felt like it weighs a ton, which was, from what Issei understood from his dragon father, was due to overuse of balance breaker. But after talking to him, even his knocked out state, he found that it was because of his emotions going overboard, and that he was extremely close to going into a forbidden realm that his father specifically told him not to ever try, as it would end badly for him. So it was not of a complete surprise that he felt like how he is feeling now. Though what surprised him the most was that he felt a warm body lying next to him, and as he moved his head to the side, he was extremely surprised to see Mirana laying next to him with her head on his shoulder, and while her hands were wrapped around his waist, preventing him from moving. It was like if she let go of him, he might disappear. Seeing that after a few minutes of struggling to get out of her grip and failing, Issei just sighed as he let his body relax as he turned his head to watch Mirana sleep. And as he watched her sleep, he couldn't help but smile, seeing her like this. Peaceful, gentle, and venerable. And he couldn't help but chuckle as she snuggled even closer to him as she put her head on in between his shoulder and neck. But his low chuckle was enough to make her wake up, as from the looks of things Issei forgot that she was a light sleeper, and even the smallest sounds could wake her up. Opening her eyes, Mirana was met with the brown light blue eyes that for a moment made her confused, but her confused state lasted only for a few moments before she blinked a few times rapidly to wake herself up. As she was now awake, she clearly saw that she was looking into Issei's eyes, and without a moment of later, her lips find his in a hard stone kiss. To Issei's credit, he was semi-expecting this, so when Mirana kissed him, he returned it in kind, which made her widen her eyes for a moment, before she closed it and enjoy it, as Mirana climbed to sit on his lap. As they separated from the passion kiss, Mirana started to look at him for a few moments, absorbing his new look that she found very pleasing to her eyes, and she couldn't help but blush deeply as she felt his lower region poke hers, and was extremely glad that from the way Issei was looking her up and down found her attractive. Hey Mirana, Issei said while he set himself upright after their silence after the kiss, still not believing that the girl that beat the shit of him when he first arrived and later his best female friend and crush was now his girlfriend. Hey to you too, Mirana spoke sweetly with a smile as her eyes were dead set looking at his exotic brown-blue ones. All the while seating on his lap. Hearing the way she said it and her sweet smile to boot, Issei was mentally preparing himself to find out how to escape hell when she sends him there, and the roaring laughter of his father didn't help him at all in this danger zone. What happened there? Where are we? Are Jeanne and you alright? Issei quickly asked, making Mirana chuckle a bit. Well, to answer you from the start. You lost it, and went berserk there, though I don't blame you at all. If that was to happen to you, I would do the same, Mirana said seriously, making Issei cringe at hearing that he went berserk. Next we are back in our room, don't you recognize it? I mean, we do live here for last 10 or so years. Her beautiful laughter echoed in the room as Issei looked around and indeed found himself in their room, though he blushed a bit since it sounded like they were a married couple. And lastly, both of us are perfectly fine, a bit of traumatized from what happened, but all right. And Father Mikhailo was already informed what happened from both Jeanne and me, so you don't need to worry. Even Indra spoke with Father, and Mikhailo know the situation very well. Mirana finished, making Issei look down while a frown was on his face, as he was sure that the girls were afraid of him more, though like reading his mind. Mirana put her hand under his head and slowly lifted it so that he could again look into her silver eyes that held no fear of him, but only love. Issei, I know what you think, but no, I'm not traumatized from what you did. And I will never ever think of you as a monster or anything bad after doing everything in your power to save both Jeanne and me. If I did, I would have no right to love you as I do. Mirana said as she planted another kiss and rested her forehead on his while looking at his eyes and having a smile on her face. You don't know how much I needed that, Mirana, and I love you too also very much. Issei softly told her, making her smile grew as a single tear fell as they kissed once more. I'm glad, Mirana said as she hugged him and enjoyed the tranquility of the moment, as they enjoy each other company. Time skipped 2 years later. Issei Hayato was walking towards Ko High School for his first day at the school since he returned to Ko after 12 years of staying in Russia. Now you must be wondering, why is Issei Hayato a member of the Orthodox Church in a country that is Shinto-occupied and in Devil's territory no less? Well, the answer is simple. It was so that he would slowly start to improve the relationship with devils that are owners of the town that he grew up, and so that after a few millenniums of Cold War a true peace could start. Though the first time he heard this, both Mirana and he were too shocked to react, and if the news wasn't enough, the one delivering it was a shock in its own right. It was no other than Seraphim Gabriel that told them about this mission, and to add to their even greater shock, they were both invited to become her angels, something that both thoughts were almost impossible. Though when she said that they will become her ace and joker, both of them were confused as the meaning of those titles and why they sounded like cards. Which she confirmed that the new system for the angels was a deck of cards, and that if they accept that, she will tell them everything there is to know about it, and even some other secrets that were not known. When they questioned why Lady Gabriel wanted them in her deck, the answer was quite fast and simple. The amount of love both of you showed towards God and between yourselves. Not to mention that even after that episode that you Issei had on your first mission, Gabriel told him before she paused to see his reaction, which was complicated even for her to understand as she saw his eyes flash many emotions all at once. That you unleashed all the brutality that was even thought against our teaching, still justified as you are also a part dragon, and the dragon gear that you have with Indrogner, who even our Lord had the utmost respect for, the ancient dragon who ruled over the sky, is more than enough for us the Seraphim to see you worthy enough of a chance to become an angel. Gabriel told him with a smile as Issei just nodded his head. Then I will gladly accept your offer, Lady Gabriel. If you would have me as your joker. Issei replied with a smile on his face as his Indra shined a bit to confirm that he was also happy with the proposal, as it would help his host become even stronger than he already was. With that done, both Mirana and Issei became the new angels of Gabriel's deck. Ace and Joker, a pair that was hard to beat before, was now even more deadly than ever. Though that was 2 years ago, and a lot more things happened between that time and now. A lucky Mirana doesn't have to go to this stupid school. I wish I was as lucky as her, Issei muttered as he neared the entrance of the school, only to stop as he felt 2 devil presence in front of the school gates. I know that Lady Gabriel said that Ko is under devils, but I didn't expect them to be in school. Issei, though getting the same thought from his dragon. Well, better suppress my aura. Indra, can you lock the gear and nullified your power? I don't really want to deal with them now. Issei spoke to his dragon as he suppressed his aura and power, while Indra did the same, since it also knew what complications Issei's power would bring. Feeling his power drop to a human level and Indra sealing his gear, only leaving the tiniest bit of power so that they could talk, Issei took a few deep breaths before going towards the 2 devil energies that he felt. And upon entering the grounds he was face to face with 2 girls, which made him stop to blink since he didn't expect that. The duo of devils was of middle and high class in terms of power, with a short, flat, black bob-haired glass-wearing girl a high class, while the girl next to her was the complete opposite, big-breasted, long black hair that went down her back and glasses, was a middle class. But after he shook his head he continued to march forward until he heard someone shout at him. Turning around to confront whoever shouted at him, he was stunned to see that it was the 2 devils that called for him. Quickly thinking that they felt it his power, Issei lifted his guard up so if they attacked him he would realize, not that he would have any difficulty in dealing with the 2 in front of him. Even if they called for help from other devils that he felt in the school grounds, they were not that much power-wise, with another pair of high middle class and a few other low-class devils. Though while Issei was a bit panicked at the sudden call on the inside, he remained cool and calm on the outside, something that his dragon beat into him after the incident that happened on his first mission. Yes, how can I help you? Issei asked politely as he kept his guard up. You are Issei Hayato, correct? A new student? The short girl asked with her own question while basically ignoring his. Yes, I am Issei Hayato, and you are? Issei said as he again questioned, wanting to know with who he was talking. I'm president of the school council, Saunashir Torai, and this is vice president Tsubaki Shinra, the smaller girl said as she adjusted her glasses before giving Issei a one-over before continuing, which made Issei twitch his eyebrow. I was expecting you to come earlier, and not 2 minutes before school. Just so we are clear, I will not tolerate anyone being late. Anyway, here is your periods for classes. Your class is 2B. Second floor, third door on the right. I suggest you head there now or you will be late, and I will have to give you detention. Sauna strictly said, making Issei sigh internally as his secret wasn't discovered at least. Thank you, President. I'm sorry for being late since I didn't expect it to school be this far away from my place. Issei told her as he bowed before going towards the class, while Sauna just stared at him for a bit before she shook her head and moved on. Class, today we have a new student, so be nice and polite. The teacher said to the class as the rumbling class died down to see who was coming while a few whispers started to go around. I hope it's someone handsome boy. Let's pray it's not a pervert. Hope it's a hot chick. Big boobs. As the rumors were said, the teacher started to get annoyed before she slammed her hand on the deck shutting up the class. Seeing as they quiet down, the teacher turned towards the door. You can come in now and please introduce yourself to the class. And with that Issei Hayato entered the class while grinning towards his new classmates, making the girls blush at seeing his face that was exotic with his light blue eyes and a bit of light blue with his chocolate brown hair. While the boys all glared daggers towards him, but he only found it amusing. Hello everyone. My name is Issei Hayato, I'm from Ko, but I spent last 12 years in Russia. I hope my Japanese isn't as rusty, and that you can forgive me if I say something wrong or do. Issei wrote his name before addressing his new classmates in a perfect Japanese, all the while bowing down, shocking everyone that he said that his was rusty but was in reality perfect. Of course, Issei knew that he said everything perfectly since him being an angel gives him instant knowledge of any language, but hey, he was a joker. Might as well have a few jokes along the way. Now class, do you have any question for Mr. Hayato? The teacher asked and all hell broke loose. Do you have a girlfriend? Can I have your number? Why are your eyes and hair light blue? Where did you live in Russia? Why did you come back? Why don't you die? Hearing those questions, Issei could only chuckle, which made the class stop their rumbling as few girls blushed as he smiled towards them. Well, to put it simply. Yes, I have a girlfriend, Issei said with a smile, while before he sweat drops as he saw girls shouted in denial that their new prince has already been taken. I don't give my number to strangers, so sorry, maybe in the future. I had an accident and from then, they are light blue. As for where in Russia, it's a small town about 400 kilometers away from Moscow on a border with Belarus. I come back so that I can live again in my hometown, and my girlfriend was nagging me to come since she never been here in Japan. As for the last question, well, no thank you, Issei answered as he turned towards the teacher. Yes, Hayato, that will be all. You can take a seat near the window. With that Issei went to his seat and sighed while his dragon laughed a bit at the reactions he was getting, and how was She going to react when she heard how he answered the question that was asked? Something tells me this is going to be a long day. Hope Mirana isn't doing something stupid. Issei thought as he looked out the window. He sometimes hated himself and his luck, he really did. It wasn't even a full day, and he was already at the radar of a high-class devil, and now he had a fallen angel in front of him. He seriously cursed his luck, and to add to it, the fallen just asked him out on a date. I mean, he understood that he will attract friend and foe, and the opposite sex, but seriously, why him? Hell, he even let go of his anger towards the fallen as a race after a long and tiredly talks with both Mirana, Gabriel and even Jeanne who came to visit them. But this is just ridiculous. It wasn't even 4 in the afternoon, and he had an encounter with 2 devils directly, and was watched by 4 more, and from the same peerage no less. Yup, his luck was Ed. So, will you go out with me? The fallen asked cutely as her violet eyes looked directly into his chocolate light blue. The fallen angel in question was an attractive young woman with violet eyes, having a slender body with a large bust that in his opinion could rival the bust of Tsubaki, but were still smaller of Rias Gremory and Akino Himejima that he saw while he was taking a break during his classes in the backyard near the old school. And even smaller in comparison to initial attire was her school uniform, which consisted of a dark red jacket with the letter P embroidered in gold, a white undershirt, a red bow, and a green skirt with a thin white stripe around the lower end of it. Now, Issei wasn't as pure as some would think, like an angel, since he was half dragon. It did bring some benefit to him, and while some would think that he misused those things, he only did when he needed or really wanted, since he still did kept it down enough so that no one could accuse him of it. So with that, Issei could freely say that the girl, even though she was a fallen, was hot as hell. But however, even if he wanted to, he knew better than that, since he received a gentle promise of what would happen to him and his junior from Gabriel's AC. And if that wasn't enough, he would fall without a second thought, since what he would do was one of the sins that were extremely severe. And with those thoughts alone, it was enough for him to give an answer to the beauty in front of him. Sorry, I'm seeing someone already, and I don't plan of cheating on her anytime soon. With that said, Issei just continued his walk towards his house, completely ignoring the killing intent that radiated from the girl that just asked him. Since there were a lot of people still roaming around, he knew that the fallen couldn't attack him, though that wouldn't do her much good anyway, and he felt a low-class devil follow him, and even staying during the whole time that Issei and the girl that called herself Yuma talked. Mirana! You at home? Issei shouted as he entered his family house, that he was thankful for the church that bought it off and kept it for him if he ever wanted to go back to Japan. His house was a simple 2 stories, with a small front yard that had flowers in it, and a big backyard that featured a small swimming pool that his late father built to enjoy the hot summers. Yes, I'm in the living room, was the answer he received from his companion as he took off his shoes and went towards the living room to greet her, though as he entered the room, he felt his blood rushing to both south and north as he looked at Mirana, who was leisurely laying on the couch. Her clothes were a short short that gave him a great view of her well-toned long legs and the firm rear that was moving around due to her wiggling her legs and her striped shirt, that he thought was just a number short as her huge assets were barely restrained as she didn't bother to wear any bra at all. But what he didn't know was that she on purpose dressed like that so that she could see his reaction and tease him. Even though both of them are already married in dragon terms and both of them already did the deed, she still enjoyed the look of his face when he was caught off guard or embarrassed by her teasing. Those were some of the things she loved to do to him, among others. Hey Issei, how was your first day at school? You didn't snatch another little innocent girl? Mirana asked sweetly sultry as she turned towards him and lifted her upper body, showing him her breasts, making his eager to go hard, as Issei looked at her provocative state. Why, you little? Issei growled in his head as he figured what she was doing, though instead of answering her, he walked towards the couch and sat down while bringing Mirana's head on his lap as he started to pat her head, making her blush at his answer to her teasing. After all, he knew a few ways how to get even with her after spending most of his life with her. It was interesting, my dear wife. I mean, how could it not, when your husband was the talk of the school and those attractive and sexy girls all wanted a piece of him? I mean, even a fallen angel asked me out, Issei said in a sly tone as Mirana's eyes went wide before she grabbed his head and slammed her lips on his. You know I will kill you if you cheat on me. Though I know you were never going to do that. But what is this about a fallen asking you out? Mirana asked with a dead serious tone, which made Issei gulp down hard while Indra laughed his ass off, making Issei cures the damn lazy-ass lizard. Well, Issei started to say, though he stopped himself as he felt the same devil aura as before that followed him, and an aura of a fallen. We are going to talk about this later, love. Looks like we have some unwanted presence around our house. Mirana frowned as she didn't get an answer she wanted out of him, though she just got a great idea that made her smirk a bit, making Issei gulp a bit. He knew that when Mirana had that smirk it was somewhat dangerous for him. He could only pray to Lady Gabriel that he survives what his wife just thought. Why do I have a bad feeling about this? Issei thought while seeds started to drop from his forehead. Because knowing your luck, it's bound for something too bad to happen, my child. Indra said in an amused tone as before, laughing as Issei just cursed. You what? Issei shouted as he couldn't believe what his wife and king just agreed on doing. I don't see a problem in that, my joker. If what you just told me was real, then I can only assume that those fallen are doing something behind Azazel's back. And while I do not agree with him on a lot of things that he does, I do know that even he wouldn't send his subordinate into a town that was under 2 siblings of a Mal, Leviathan and Lucifer. Gabriel spoke in her calm and a bit of childish voice before she continued. Also, you two are sent there to help stabilize the situation between the angels and devils. That means that you should, if need be, help in clearing the situation. You have my permission to engage the fallen if you are attacked, but try to not get into a fight with the devils. I will talk to Lord Lucifer so he knows about this current situation. As for you two being there, he already gives permission, though he asked for you two to not engage Rias, Gremory, and Sonacitri, and their peerage. Gabriel finished as she waited for her ace and joker to absorb the situation. After a few moments, Mirana was the one that talked. Lady Gabriel, while what you said if okay with us, well me, at least, doesn't that mean that we will need to drop our cover? I mean, I have faith that Lord Lucifer and other Maus understand the situation, and I don't have a single thought of doubt that they also want for a situation to be good and all that. But what are we going to do if they attack or force us to do something? Mirana questioned, getting Issei to nod at what Mirana said. I see what you mean, my ace, and even I asked about that situation occurs. If that was to happen, you are to call me immediately without delay, and I will speak with Lucifer and others. Should you get attacked, try to keep the fighting to a minimum, as I'm sure that you two can win against them going full force. So if attacked, try not to injure them or worse, and keep them at bay until I arrive or someone from a devil faction that is more suited and more up to the current situation. Gabriel answered her ace as Mirana nodded her head before both women looked towards Issei, who blinked a few times before getting while they were looking at him. I promised I will hold back, though for how long, I can't guarantee, Issei said as he sighs. Which got a few chuckles from the women. Well, it's better than nothing. At least you won't make Ku a desert like you did to that part of Siberia forest. Mirana spoke with a smirk which made Issei get a thick mark on his head. Why you? Issei growled as he was ready to lunch himself at Mirana only to be stopped by Gabriel, who was now laughing at the sight. Oh, I knew you two are close and in a way married, but to be like this I didn't imagine. Ha ha ha, I really need to come someday and just watch you two and enjoy free entertainment. I think even Griselda would be laughing right now. Well, if that is all, I will take my leave. Remember to inform me if something happens, and I don't care even if it's in the middle of the night. You two are more important than some fallen angels or devils to me. Goodbye and let God be with you, Gabriel said in between laughs, leaving both teens' red faces as they mumbled something. So after managing to breathe normally, she said her last piece before cutting the connection and returning to whatever she was doing. As Gabriel ended her call, both Issei and Mirana turned towards each other before Mirana grinned towards him, and with one fell swoop dashed out of the guest room where they were talking. Seeing as she just rushed away from him, Issei blinked a few times before grinning and rushing after her. It were the small thing that made them lively, and enjoying a simple and pointless game of tag was what brought laughter in the house of hideout. It had been 2 hours since the little talk and their little game of tag, and not both Mirana and Issei were going on one of their date, which was also good as they tried to see if both Fallen and Devil will react to him going out, and since Mirana also suppressed her power they looked like a normal human couple, which was perfect for them. And like they both predicted, it didn't take long to sense both the Devil and Fallen auras following them through. Both of them continued like they didn't notice them, but with how both sided didn't know how to hide their presence, and with Issei being a half-dragon it was starting to get on his nerves. If they don't make their move soon, I'm going to beat the shit out of them. Issei softly growls as Mirana giggled at his reaction. Now, my dragon, don't need to be that angry, they aren't at fault. They don't know they are going up against a dragon now, do they? Mirana softly asked as she kissed his cheek before winking at him as she started to run a bit ahead of him. I'm going to the store to buy some snacks for later, dear. Why don't you go and sit down by the fountain while you wait for me? I will be back in 15 minutes. Mirana said it a bit loudly as she waved towards Issei, who sighed as he knew what she was doing and just started to walk towards it. Though as Issei was making his way towards the fountain he was given a strange pamphlet by a cosplay girl saying that every wish would come true, though he easily saw that she was a devil familiar and that the pamphlet was a summoning circular for devils. But instead of throwing it away he put it in his pocket and continued towards his destination. I should have known. Are you ready? Issei quietly asked his dragon as he saw who was innocently waiting near the fountain with her back turned towards him as if she knew that he was a pathetic weakling. Always ready, my child. Are you going to destroy her? Indra asked calmly as he already knew the outcome of the fight, if you will call it a fight. No, even if I wanted to. I already agreed on capturing her and seeing her intentions here. And you know how Mirana and Gabriel are. What would you think will happen if I kill her right now? They will gut me alive. And that is without Griselda and Jeanne helping them, Issei said as he shivered to remember one time that he had up and both were on him. It was not a pleasant memory. Fair point, my child. Though looks like she noticed you. Stay sharp. I can sense Mirana close by to stop her from running away. And that devil is also watching, but looks like it won't intervene. Indra told Issei as he nodded his head only slightly. Ah, Issei, what a surprise to see you here. Do you also come here often? Yuma said with a smile that was as fake as the innocent look she was making. Sometimes I'm on a date, so I was told to come here and wait for my date to come. What are you doing here, Yuma? Issei innocently asked the he-fact, looking at each side. Are you also on a date? You can say something like that though. Before our dates return, could I ask you one thing? Yuma said as she started walking forward until she was about few feet away from Issei. Oh, and what would that be, Yuma? He questioned with curiosity. Will you die for me? Yuma asked with a vicious grin on her face. Will you die for me? Yuma asked sweetly with an innocent smile. Damn, she is nuts. Issei thought as he faked his shock at her words, which made his dragon chuckle a bit at how his words were true. What did you said, Yuma? Issei questioned while trying to look as confused as possible. Will you die for me, Issei Haida? I mean, we didn't go on a date, but still, you could do that for me, right? Yuma said as she jumped back before she transformed into her real form. Her clothes shredded and disintegrated black liquid moved around her skin, forming into leather items of clothing. From the looks of things, she looked like a mature lady who's into BDSM. Well, I will be damned. You are hot, Fallen. Issei grinned as he looked at her, feeling glad that his mark was shielding him from falling. Why, thank you, Worm. Now stand still and be a good boy and die. And when you see God, tell him that he is to blame for your death. For putting that sacred gear inside you. And my name is Raynare, remember it well. Raynare shouted as she launched a light spear at Issei. Nah, I wouldn't bore him with it. He has a lot of more important things to do, Issei calmly said as the spear hit him, making a small explosion and a cloud of dust, rising up, shielding Issei from Raynare. Well, that is done, now for part 2, Raynare told herself as she turned around about to fly off, only to feel a powerful aura behind her. Turning around quickly, what she saw shocked her to the core, as she didn't expect the puny human to do what he did. What? Damn Yuma, you do pack a punch, but really, you should never underestimate your opponent. Even if he is merely human, Issei told her as the dust settled. What stood was Issei holding the spear in his hand like it was nothing. Who are you? Raynare asked in shock as she felt another barrier forming around Issei and her. Only this one was angel in nature and a lot stronger than hers. Oh, that is easy. Why don't I introduce myself and my date as well? Issei said with an arrogant smirk as he crushed the spear in his hand with ease, as both turned to the sound of footsteps to see Mirana, slowly making her way towards the duel with a bag of few groceries. Well, Issei, I leave you for a few moments and someone wants to kill you. What am I going to do with you, dear? Oh, and who is this? Mirana asked while faking disappointment towards Issei before she turned to face Raynare while giving her once and over. This is Raynare, that girl I told you that asked me out. You know I told her about it, Issei said without a problem, as he took the bags from her to look at what she brought. Hardly any snacks, dear. Something wrong? Issei questioned as he looked at Mirana, who just smiled towards him. I'm making your favorite tonight, and you don't want to spoil the taste now, would you, honey? Though I'm not surprised you didn't go out with her. I mean, look at her, she looks like a whore. Mirana told him with a gentle smile, making his eyes sparkle at the thought of eating his favorite, and with Mirana making it, which prompted a giggle from her, while Raynare growled towards the blonde bimbo, who was beautiful, even causing her to envy of her body. Yeah, well, you would have killed me if I did agree anyway. Issei muttered as he looked at a few items in the bag, before taking a can of soda and opening it, while Mirana nodded her head at that, before the two started to talk about a few things, ignoring Raynare. While the couple talked like she wasn't there at all, Raynare tried to punch through the barrier only to see it standing firm and without a scratch on it at all, and that started to scare her. You can do that all day and night, you won't break it. There are only a few who can do it, and you aren't one of them, Mirana said as she took a pack of chips and started to eat it. Who are you two? Raynare growled as she turned around to see the couple taking a seat on the edge of the fountain, while enjoying a drink and a snack. Well, as I was saying, this here is Mirana Shadarova Hayadu, a reincarnated angel in the service to the God of the Bible and AC of Lady Gabriel's deck. Issei introduced Mirana, who stood up and bowed a little. And I'm Issei Hayadu, also a reincarnated angel in Lady Gabriel's deck, though I'm a joker, also a wielder of Heavenly Dragon of Storm. Nice to meet you, fallen angel Raynare. Issei finished with a huge grin as he saw Raynare's face rapidly paling, hearing the names and status the two in front of her. Now she knew that she royally ate up. Now Raynare, you have 3 solutions really. First is either you try to run away while fighting us both and dying 100%, second you can come with us, answer a few questions we want to ask you, and we will let you go and pretend you were never here, or third solution is we force the answer from you, then hand you over to the devils who govern this town and let them do to you whatever they want. Choose your answer wisely. You have a minute to decide, Mirana told her with a narrow look in her eyes, while her tone was clear indication that she was serious. And to Raynare it wasn't really hard what to pick off the 3. Even though she knew that she was betraying her teammates, it was still better for her, as she would escape with her life, and if they were quick maybe with her whole team and that. So, it wasn't surprising to the 2 angels when she answered them quickly. Well, follow us then and do try to hide your aura and not make it so that the whole world knows you are here, will ya? Issei said while looking at Raynare, who growled softly but did her best to suppress her aura while Mirana just snapped her fingers letting the barrier fall. Oh yeah, I won't need this, Issei said as he retrieved the contract pamphlet that he received before throwing it in a bin. Guess the devils will be disappointed for not having their way with me, oh well. As they made their way towards their home with Raynare, both felt that the devil who was trailing them earlier nowhere near, but they just figured that its king called it over, so that it would be even more convenient for them and to make them look innocent. Looks like they didn't count on him being a powerful being and a dragon. Back in ORC, a red-haired girl was growing uneasy as she waited for a signal to go and fetch her new servant, though the more time passed the more she felt like something really bad had happened. Rias, a girl that was a beauty that rivaled the red hair and physical appearance with huge assets, she was wearing a co-academia uniform. Her violet-color eyes looked a bit sorrowful as she didn't have the heart to finish her sentence. I know, Aquino. Tell Sona that Issei Hayada is not among us anymore. Rias told her as Aquino nodded. Entering the Hayada household, Raynare was surprised to see that it looked like a regular one, not the one that was expecting from an angel couple, which in itself was strange. And when she asked them, the simple answer she got was that they were married but not in a regular way. Deciding that it was better not to ask what they mean, Raynare followed them into a living room, which was like any other household, though it felt a lot more comforting and warmer than anything she visited. Though as Raynare was looking at her surrounding, Issei was helping Mirana with cooking food, since they knew that Raynare couldn't escape, so they weren't worried about it. And honestly speaking, they knew that she was hungry as they were, so a good meal will help lift the tense mood that was around the trio. Raynare, when we finish making food, we are going to eat, and don't try to say anything, I can hear your stomach from the kitchen, Issei told her, making Raynare blush in embarrassment, and a bit angry. Fine, not like I can do anything else, good girl. Though feel free to explore the living room and even watch TV, we won't be too long, Mirana said as she was chopping some vegetables for dinner. Seeing as there was literally nothing to do, Raynare explored a bit more of the room she was in, until she saw a small board that was filled with pictures. Deciding to see them, she moved towards them, only to pale as she saw her boss Azazel and Issei together playing games and on few others doing other activities, from fishing to even racing against each other. Quickly moving her sight from those was a few pictures of both Mirana and Issei along with another girl, and from the looks of things they were somewhere in Europe, but she couldn't tell where. Though the girl was also a beauty, and from the way how she was holding Issei, Raynare was sure that the girl had feelings for a lightly bluish brunette. Who is this girl? I never saw it with Issei? Raynare thought as she looked a bit more before she was called to get to the table to eat. And as dinner went in, a calm and a bit tense atmosphere for Raynare, she could clearly see that the two in front of her more and more like a real husband and wife that she thought. Though she didn't comment on that, since she knew that even if they were calm and normal to her, they could destroy her in a blink of an eye. And honestly, she didn't want that at all. Well, Raynare, now that we had food, it's time for you to talk. And don't try to lie. I know your boss, and he is actually a very good friend of mine, as you probably saw from the pictures. Issei spoke in an even tone, his eyes narrowing just a little bit as to give her a sign that he won't take some dumb reason, or anything bullshit that she would throw at him. Fine, I will tell you all there is, but after that, you will let me live, right? Raynare said in a bit scared tone, as Issei's tone and look made her pale a bit. That is to be discussed later by both of us and some other. Though now that I said it, I think it will be nice to call them over. Don't you think so, Issei? Morana said before she turned towards her husband, who nodded his head. What? Raynare questioned, sacredly hoping to not see Azazel. But her hopes were dead as she heard the answer she was dreading. Well, Azazel and Lady Gabriel, of course. It would be bad if we didn't invite them, especially since both are leaders of our factions, and both wanted to come and see our house anyway, so it's perfect. Issei, call AZ and I will call Lady Gabriel, Mirana answered calmly, though she did have a teasing smirk as she saw Raynare becoming paler by the second. And it took less than a few minutes for the trio to saw two magic circulars forming in the living room. From them, they clearly saw 4 individuals emerging. Though even if they called for both leaders, the couple knew that if there was a chance that the 2 friends they made would come automatically, so it wasn't a surprise when they saw a silver-haired teen that was rocking a bad boy look appear from the same circular as Azazel, and from other Gabriel and Griselda showed up. Though what was amusing to the duo was that all 4 brought presents. Well, got to say, this is unexpected, Lady Gabriel said as she looked towards her ace and joker, who were sitting at the table with a clearly fallen angel girl. But what shocked her was that Azazel also came, and with a teenage boy from who Gabriel could easily read a demonic and dragon aura. Indeed, it is nice to see you again, Gabriel. It was a long time since we saw each other, Azazel said calmly as greeted the archangel, who returned the greeting politely. Well, I know that you were eager to come, but really presents? And from you of all people, Vala? Issei said with a grin as he bowed along with Mirana towards Lady Gabriel, who immediately told them to get up before she hugged them and gave them a present, along with Griselda, who hugged Mirana and lightly punched Issei in the arm for being so rude. Well, Saint Dragon, it's not every day you get to buy a house and live with your darling, is it? The teen answered with a smirk before he and Issei fist bump. As a battle maniac said, it's not every day. And you really should call more often. It's dull to play those games alone, you know, Azazel said with a grin as Vala growled at him, before he saw Raynare sitting at the table looking like a deer caught in the headlights. Well, I see now why you call me Issei. So, what did my subject do to be arrested? Which, by the way, I'm not complaining that you brought her here instead of killing her outright, Azazel said, bringing all attention towards the seated fallen angel, who was shocked to hear this from her leader. Let's take a seat first. What would you like to drink? Mirana said as she gestured towards the table before going to the kitchen. Some sake for me. Azazel said as he took the sit next to Raynare with Vala on the opposite side of her. Anything is good. Vala added. 2 cups of tea for us, Mirana dear, Gabriel told her ace as she took the opposite side of the fallen trio with Griselda and Issei flanking her. Now my joker, would you like to tell us why you call us all over? I know you didn't only do it to show your house, the Archangel added as soon as Mirana brought the drinks for everyone and took her seat next to Issei. Well, that is true, Lady Gabriel, that we didn't call you all to just see the house. We thought that it would be better for all sides of this incident to be present so that no one could say that this side did this and other this. This way everything is in the open and known. Issei calmly said as he looked at everyone who nodded their heads in agreement to his point of view. They can clearly see that he was doing this so that there won't be any backslash in the future. Seeing that everyone was agreeing, Issei decided to continue. As I told you already, Lady Gabriel, yesterday this fallen angel Raynare asked me out, though to skip all that boring part, and jump straight to the fun part. When I was waiting for Mirana to come back from the store, I found Raynare waiting for me at the fountain during sunset, and she asked me to die before telling me to blame God for putting the SG into me. Now I know that Azazel, we don't talk that much about our hobbies outside of games and a few other things. But I'm pretty sure that you never said that fallen angels were to kill the SG users, right? Issei said in an even flat tone as he looked at Azazel directly into the eyes as he used a bit of his dragon power to make them turn to slits to show how serious he was. It didn't take a genius to know that Issei was royally pissed at the attempt of assassination on his body, and it didn't help that Gabriel and Griselda narrowed their eyes as the 2 beautiful women looked at Raynare and Azazel respectively with a bit of killing intent. This honestly made Azazel want to run as far away as he could, knowing that women's wrath was something even the strongest beings were powerless. While Vala was holding back the laughter, as he saw the look on Azazel's face which was priceless. Mirana for her part was sweetly smiling towards Azazel, who could honestly say that he was now even more terrified of Issei's woman than Gabriel and Griselda combined, quickly thinking of a way out of possible death sentence. Azazel raised his arm in surrender, as he looked at Gabriel firstly. Honestly speaking, what Issei said was true. I never did give an order for the kill, and even more so one Issei himself. I know what he is capable and more. It would be a death sentence to any fallen lower of 6 wings to even attempt it. Hell, even that higher tier are in danger. I did send my fallen word to observe the Red Dragon Emperor, who was in Ko. And only to observe and report to me, not to kill him. Azazel quickly said, making the women blink a few times before he felt the killing intent drop, which gave him a chance to take a deep breath of air. While both Vala and Issei had their eyes widened by this revelation, it gave the 2 a feeling of excitement at the prospect of fighting a dragon emperor that was unknown to them, and boy were they eager to meet this fellow. If what you say is true, that means that the red dragon in danger, Gabriel quickly said as she gave a quick side glance towards her joker, who was grinning all too familiarly, and it didn't help that this Vala fellow was also having the same grin. That is true, so Raynare, do tell me, who made you change my direct order from observing to kill? Azazel said sharply as he looked at his subordinate, who gulped in fear. Well? He pressed onwards as he saw her trying to stall, and he didn't want that. One of a few people that he was friends with was attacked by his faction with an intent to kill. That would simply not do. He wanted to know who was behind this. He had a feeling, but he wanted proof. This way he could at least atone for this towards Issei and let the storm dragon let loose his rage. After all, he knew what the mighty dragon was capable, and he saw the damage and carnage that it did. It was in his extremely best interest not to feel its rage. Well, it was Raynare shyly spoke while trying to make herself disappear, but to no avail as everyone was watching her like a hawk. Well? Azazel repeated again, this time in a darker tone, as he knew this game, and was tired very quickly of it. Raynare, seeing the intent look and a bit of killing intent from her leader, squirm a bit, before slowly, almost as if whispering a name that was almost too quiet even for Vala and Issei to hear, but they heard it as well as everyone else. And no one was happy at what they heard. Kabile. The shock of the revelation of the main culprit was something that evident on everyone's faces, more on Angel's side than the fallen, though that shock was more evident in Gabriel, Griselda and Mirana's eyes. In Issei's and Vala's, that was a different story. While he was shocked at first at hearing the name of the person who wanted a Red Dragon Emperor dead, that lasted only for a few moments before he started laughing like a maniac at this new situation. He was soon joined in by Vala, who also saw Issei's point, which made all others around them confused, and Azazel and Griselda thought that they needed a brain checkup. So, will you tell us what is so funny to you two? Gabriel calmly asked after the 2 teens finished their laughter. We are laughing because of something that our dragons told us way back. Issei told them while grinning the whole time, which made them raise an eyebrow at his answer. And that would be? Azazel was the next to ask, though honestly, he wished he did not, as the answer was not a pretty one for him. Well, you all know what dragon rage is, right? Issei questioned, making the leaders pale while the low-ranking angels and fallen looked at him with question marks above their heads. With Vala grinning like a madman. Dragon rage? Azazel and Gabriel asked in fright as they knew what that meant. What is dragon rage? Raynare finally decided to speak and ask a question that was on the mind of those that were less knowledgeable in that subject, though the look from her boss was enough for her that it was better not to know. But Issei was the one that answered it for her. Well, for you, Raynare, I need to explain a bit more. But Mirana, you remember our first mission with Jeanne? Issei questioned, making her nod in acknowledgement, only to gasp as she realized why he asked her that. Why, you mean that was? That was only a starting point of dragon rage, my love. If it weren't for you and Jeanne, I would have probably gone to Grigori and started a massacre there. Dragon's rage is something that is not to mess with, no matter how powerful someone is. Dragons are known to be driven by power and emotions. The stronger the emotion, the more power they get. For example, if say someone was to hurt or God forbid kill the hatchling of a dragon, the dragon will hunt that person down until that person is dead or the dragon dies trying to kill it. And they will even hunt him in his dreams, making that person slowly lose sanity until he wishes for death. That will of course come slowly and painfully. That is the simplest example, but you get the point. Do not make a dragon angry. Issei explained it as simple as possible, and boy, the reaction he got was hilarious to him and Vala, though they did try to keep the laugh to a minimum, though it failed as soon as they saw Azazel covering behind Gabriel, Mirana, and Griselda while waving a white flag. I am glad you didn't come to Grigori to settle the score. Extremely glad, Azazel mumbled behind the angels as he was afraid of what he will see from Issei and to extension, Indrogner. He really didn't want to piss off one of the strongest dragons. Haha, don't worry, Az, you are safe. I said I was close to doing that. Now I'm all good with Grigori. Though if someone hurts those that I hold dear, well, let's say that Indrogner taught me a few things that are better not known. Issei grinned at Azazel, making him go pale as he thought of some hidden abilities that the Master of Skies had at his disposal, and if they were even close to his know well. I promise in the future there won't be any problems with Grigori, so please don't go ballistic on us. I would very much like to have my subjects alive and well and not a dragon's stress relief. Though how about this? Azazel said with a breath of relief as he was safe for now at least. And what is that you suggest to my joker? Gabriel finally spoke after a shock she received from a revelation that her joker was close to dragon rage. That would make things close to another great war. Though she was extremely proud of Issei for managing to calm down, she was sure that a reward was needed, and she will have to have a talk with others to see that reward being as good as it is for one of the strongest angles. Yeah, Azazel, let's hear it? Hell, I may even help the Heavens Joker. Vala added, making a few looked at him with confusion. What I'm suggesting is that we let Issei handle Kabile. And before you all jump on me, hear me out, Azazel said before quickly raising his hand in surrender, as he didn't want to be a hedgehog, and from the looks of the three women glaring at him, he was sure that they will make him a pincushion quickly and painfully. Speak quickly then and make it good. Mirana spoke, her voice cold as winter in Siberia as the lightning sword was slowly forming in her hand. What I mean is that Issei let loose and bring all his pent-up power that he is barely holding back on Kabile. This would not only help him but me also. And you can think of this as a job. I will pay handsomely. He will even have some help from Vala if things are dire. I know that both are eager for a good fight, and bringing down Kabile is a good way for them to loosen up a bit, and not go against each other. You remember what happened last time those two battle maniacs clashed, right, Gabriel? Azazel told them while pointing at the two teens, who had huge battle-hungry smiles as Issei started to crack his fists, making a few scared of him, while Gabriel only sighed as she was there when those two battled it out in a friendly duel which left the whole pocket dimension beyond destroyed. Fine, I see your point, I will approve of this. But if something is to go south, I expect you to clean this mess up. And Mirana and Griselda will be also there to support Issei during his fight. I know that when he has a prospect of a good fight, it's hard to keep him in line, but since Kabile is a threat to keeping the peace, I will give a green light. Though I will need to inform Michael and the devils of a possible struggle in the very near future. And I expect you to also be there, so that if by some chance my angels and Vala are not enough, you were to help them. Is that understood? Gabriel told him in a calm tone with a straight face, as she was extremely serious on this matter. While Mirana calmed down a bit, knowing that she would be near to help Issei if he were in danger, though knowing him it would be likely to keep a city from getting destroyed by his own hands. But that raised one important thing. Lady Gabriel, I know you agreed in this, but we do have one problem. Mirana said, a bit uneasy. And what is that, my dear Ace? Well, Jeanne. Mirana almost whispered, but it was still heard, making Gabriel, Issei, and Griselda go stiff as they knew why Mirana said that. Well, let's hope she doesn't find out, Issei said with a huge gulp, as he knew what Mirana was thinking. And if it was like some divine bad luck, a communication circular appeared on the table just as Issei said that. And to make things worse, the person that they were just talking about was calling. Oh, for the love of Issei cursed inwardly, making Mirana laugh a bit, though it was easy to see that it was a bit forced, as she wasn't looking forward to this, especially with all the guests in the house at this moment. Well, dear, time to face the music. Though knowing her, she will understand, though look on the bright side, you are going to get your reflex training up the gear as soon as she comes back. Mirana teased a bit with a grin on her face, making Gabriel and Griselda laugh as they knew what was in store for Issei. Yeah, lucky me. Well, time to face the music. Hope she doesn't kill me outright, like that last time. Issei mumbled the last part as he answered a call, and from it, a beautiful girl with her beauty and hourglass body could easily rival any supernatural female, and even make them envy of her looks, with golden blonde hair that went all the way down towards her lower back, her beautiful sky blue eyes shining with such happiness. The girl was in a plain white sleeveless shirt with a necktie that, and a short deep blue skirt that was showing of her long legs with long stockings, along with a pair of plain shoes appeared. Her look alone was enough to make a male's heart stop for a second, and her radiant beauty was on par with Mirana's, only unshined by Gabriel's. Issei, Mirana, finally I managed to get a connection. Did something happen so that you put a powerful barrier? Jeanne exclaimed in happiness at first seeing the people that were extremely dear to her, before becoming slightly serious. Though before Issei or Mirana could answer, Gabriel beat them to it by entering Jeanne's view. Jeanne dear, it's nice to see you again. How are you doing, my child? Lady Gabriel. Jeanne spoke in shock, as she didn't expect the Archangel to be in Issei's and Mirana's home. So she did a quick bow, since that was the best she could do at that moment. Haha, rise my child, you do not need to be so formal with me when I'm off duty and among my own deck. Though how is the mission going, Jeanne? Gabriel said with a smile, as she was hoping to change Jeanne's thoughts from Issei and Mirana to her assignment. Though for a moment the angles present were sure that would do the trick, though sadly Jeanne was not easy to trick. It is going good so far, no significant movements or plans that are dangerous to any supernatural beings, though there is a lot of recruiting. I heard that some are even planning on talking and trying to bring the Bringer of Storms and Vanishing Dragon to their fold, saying that it will make them even more powerful. Though I sincerely doubt that Vanishing Dragon and Issei will be up to join them. All of the newly recruited members' lists were sent to Lord Michel, as you requested, my Lady Gabriel, so he is looking them over as we speak. Jeanne told everyone present, though she wasn't aware of Fallen's presence for now. That is good, my dear. I am truly sorry for making you go through all of this. If you are fed up with this, just say the word and I will personally talk to others to get you out of this, Gabriel said with a gentle tone, as she looked at Jeanne with a soft but sad smile, as she knew that she was in a sense playing with her life. Do not worry, my lady, I actually have good news, Jeanne told them cheerfully, not seeing some of them a bit worried by this. Oh, and what is that, my dear St. Orleans? Issei joked lightly to hide the bad feeling that was telling him that he was Ed. Well, Dragon Boy, I was assigned to be the one trying to recruit you, so I will be coming to Kull in a few days. Jeanne grinned, making the angels go stiff as boards, as this was honestly the worst thing to happen. That is great, Jeanne, I can't wait to show you around our house. When are you expected to come? Mirana spoke in her usual cheerful tone. Sunday, I can't wait to see you all. I do hope that Lady Gabriel and Griselda would also be here when I arrive. It was way too long since I saw and talked to you, the St. Orleans spoke in excitement. We will be here, do not worry. I assure you we make time to come and see you, Griselda said, making Jeanne smile. That is great. Now, if you excuse me, I need to break up the connection. It would be troublesome if someone finds out. See you guys soon. And Issei, try to stay out of trouble, please. I don't want to do something that I would regret later, Jeanne said with a smile, while she waved as the communication circular broke apart, leaving no trace of its existence, making everyone sigh in relief. Well, can I at least swear now? Issei questioned, making every angel nod, even Gabriel. We are all Ed. Well, mostly me. Why? What would happen if that blondie finds out? Raynare questioned, making Issei glare at her, which made her flinch. Well, Ray, let me ask you this. Did you heard what happened to Siberia about 5 to 6 years ago? Issei questioned, making her nod, not seeing his point. Good, and do you know what really happened there? He continued, making her shake her head. Well, long story extremely short, I happened. There was a mission that we had to do. Issei paused to point to Griselda and Mirana, along with Jeanne, and let's say that I end up fighting a dragon Shaggot, a bastard version of a dragon. Though they may not be fully dragons, they do have the power and magic to be equal to them. The fight ended in my victory, though the place where we battled was proclaimed as a natural disaster place. And to top it off, I almost got killed. That was when Jeanne, after I recovered, almost killed me with her SG on the excuse of training my reflexes while she did restricted my movement with her other abilities. Let's say that wasn't fun at all. Issei concluded, making Raynare widen her eyes at hearing this. I'm still jealous for that fight. I really want to have that kind of fight. Vala said, making Issei chuckle a bit. Well, we do spar on a regular basis, so we do have our regular fill of battle. Issei countered, making Vala nodded. True, but from what I heard from you-know-who, dragon Shigats are rare treat to battle. Vala concluded his statement, making Issei shake his head at what his good friend and rival said. Well, with that over, and Jeanne making Issei be on to becoming a new porcupine, it seems that you all agree. Azazel quickly said before changing his thought on his subordinate that was almost forgotten. Now Raynare, is there something else that you are keep hidden from me? Azazel questioned, making the poor girl jump from sudden attention. No, Raynare, if you want to live might as well tell everything. Or should I let Vala extract a few more information from you? Azazel told her clearly while pointing to Vala, who was smiling at her, making her pale. Well, there is another thing, Raynare whispered, making them look at her with a bit of annoyance, as she was again doing the slow game. There is a girl that is to come to Ko soon. She is an ex-nun that has an SG. Raynare quickly said after seeing the annoyance on everyone's faces. A girl and an ex-nun? Griselda spoke slowly, making Raynare even more uncomfortable. Why, yes, she is an ex-nun. I think her name is Asia Argento, or something like that. When she gets here, we are to extract the SG from her and present it to you, Lord Azazel. Raynare carefully said, but was soon forced to crawl the hand of her trough as Issei jumped at her with the look of fury. What did you just say? Issei questioned in a dark, cold, and emotion-empty voice, his aura raising rapidly as he stared into Raynare with his eyes glowing light blue, which made everyone jump at his sudden action and his voice that sounded more demonic and dragon-like. I can't breathe, Raynare cried out as she was still trying to pry Issei's hand of her neck, but to no avail as he was slowly choking her to death. I think I asked the question, fallen roadkill. Now if you wish to live, answer it quickly. Issei's response was to her clear as day, and with his hand putting even more pressure, it was clear that he was losing what little restrictions he had for her. Issei, release her now, she can't answer with you choking the life of her. Griselda said as she also tried to help Raynare, but not out of sympathy for the fallen, but because it would be extremely bad for Issei if he killed without a hell of a reason. Fine. Issei finally let go, making Raynare cough a few times before looking at Azazel for help, only for him to shake his head. As much as I want to help you, you and your group have done a lot of things behind my back, and that alone is enough for me to see as suitable punishment. But the girl that you said is extremely close to Issei, almost like a sister of sorts, and what you just said is an execution for her. So, I am not to involve myself in this, Azazel clearly said before he looked at Issei with clear determination. She is yours. Do whatever you want, she is dead to me. After doing so many things behind my back. Also, that group of hers is now officially labeled as strays. Raynare, tell him where you were hiding in the town, Azazel announced as he looked at his subordinate with disgust. Seeing and hearing this, Raynare just lowered her head. She knew from the start that she had upped royally, but this just confirmed it. So with no life in her voice, she did have the whereabouts of her other stray comrades. The hideout is the abandoned church at the edge of the town, just on the border of Devil's territory. Raynare spoke with her head down while quietly crying at her doomed future. After calming down, Issei sighed heavily before he looked at Vala, who even without saying anything knew what his friend wanted of him. Consider it done, though you know what I wanted in return, right? Vala told Issei, who nodded. Of course, I will talk to them after this shit is done, and I will try my best. Issei replied, leaving everyone else out of the loop about what they just agreed on. Issei? What was that? Mirana questioned, not knowing what in the heavens' name that the two dragons emperors agreed on. And if those battle maniacs wanted to destroy someone, well, those were dead already. Don't worry your pretty head, it is something that between your husband and me. And well, sadly it is something that we can't tell anyone yet since it is under dragon oath. Vala answered, only for Issei to speak before anyone else can. And before any of you force us to speak, it will be in vain. Ingrid and you know who already made sure that even if you read our minds, it won't be discovered. Damn, whatever it is, it must be really important. Morana sighed in exhaustion, but if it's that important I can only trust you and Vala, though if you need help do tell me, you know that, right? Morana added before getting up and going to the kitchen. Well, anyway, that settles that. Now what to do with this crow? Issei said out loud as he looked at everyone present. I said it already, they are dead to me the moment they went against my word, and now this you can do whatever you want for all I care. You can use her as stress relief if you want to. Gulp. Azazel said before an overwhelming pressure and killing intent was emitted from the kitchen, and a large bang was heard. Though if he was pissing himself from Mirana, he would defiantly crap himself right there, and then if his gaze was just a bit to the right where the angels were seated. Never mind. Do as you please. Azazel squeaked like a little girl as Mirana exited the kitchen with an innocent smile on her face but an aura of doom and damnation around her, while she carried a pot of tea and alcohol for the guests. Why not just give her to the devils as a way of showing peace, and I will be there as a mediator so that they don't think of anything funny, Vala suggested as if it was only natural. Yeah, that could work, though I had planned to give her to an old friend of mine. But who said we couldn't give someone else to them? But great plan, Vala. I knew you had something in your head other than battles and power. Issei said as he grinned at the jab he sent Vala's way that made his eyebrow twitch at the jab. Just you wait, you bloody bastard. Vala said quietly as he raised his power, only for Issei to smirk and do the same. I am still waiting for that to come. Issei whispered back only to irritate Vala, and he was doing. Okay, that is settled, but what about Raynare's crew in Asia? Griselda asked, bringing both dragons back to reality. Easy, we kill them, and problem solved. Vala said as if it was the common sense. What? You would be no better than those sinners who commit murder just for the heck of it. Gabriel told him sternly, only for him to surge. Well, Vala has a good point. I mean, if we don't get rid of them, we can't be sure that they won't do something in the future. We need to consider them as such. We can always say they are collateral damage after all. Issei told them, defending Vala's view way that even Gabriel and Griselda couldn't rebuke him. Fine, and about Asia? Gabriel said after a few moments. Well, you know her ability, my lady. I am confident you can figure something out. I will contact you when we have her with us. Issei replied to Gabriel with a smirk that made even a perfect lady of the heavens want to groan. Honestly, how do Morana and Jeanne deal with you, I wonder? Let's not go there. Issei muttered while he cringes a bit. While Morana laughed a bit. It was a Monday when Issei, who after a solid half an hour of explaining that he wasn't dead and that it was a prank, was shocked that a high-class devil almost ripped the door of his homeroom as if it was an only escape from death. The one that almost ripped the door was Rias Gremory, heir of the Gremory household and little sister of Lucifer. Where is hideout? Rias questioned in a panicked tone as she scanned the room, ignoring everything else. Seeing that there is no way around it, and that he will soon be spotted anyway, Issei decided to just go with it. Rias, here I am. What do you need my humble self for? Issei said as he casually lifted his arms so that the redhead could see him. The moment her baby blue eyes spotted him, they went narrow as if she was a cat and not a demon. But Issei kept it to himself as it would probably make her angry, and he didn't want to start a fight here with her. You come with me this instant. We have a lot to discuss. Rias told him in an angry tone, trying to sound as authoritative as possible. Now why would I do that? I am in the middle of a lecture, you see. Issei told her while pointing to the blackboard that had a few things written on it. Now. You can learn that later. The redhead was seeing red as she stormed towards him and grabbed his arm, yanking him from the chair. Fine, you win. Damn, even she isn't like that when she wants something. Issei said out loud before whispering the last part to himself. With that, both Rias and Issei left the classroom, leaving the rest in various shapes of shock and whatnot. As soon as Issei entered the old classroom in an old school building, he was impressed at the style and looks of it. It was more Victorian era than anything, and from only a glance you can tell it sure cost an arm and a leg to buy it. But then again, he was talking about devils, it was sure they had somehow obtained it for less. Looking more around, Issei saw that he was in a semi-encircled state. A blonde boy was near the window that was near the door that he just went through, though he didn't feel that he had a lot of magic power, though he felt that the blonde had something that made him stand out. Next was a small girl that more in a kindergarten than a high schooler near him on a sofa, and from what he could sense she had monstrous strength along with magic. She could be a rook if what Lady Gabriel told me about Devil's system, then that must mean that the blonde is a knight, since well he also has a sword. Keeping that info in his mind, Issei scanned the room a bit more and saw a familiar face, and he was not surprised to see. It was Akino, and boy, she was smiling so sweetly that if Issei didn't live with Mirana and Jeanne sometimes he would blush from beauty, but he was more on the alert than anything. And her being as far as possible from Issei to him suggested that she was a magic expert, and not the melee fighter like the two others. Issei, please take a seat, will you? Rias finally said as she took a seat behind the desk that was overlooking the whole room, while Issei took a seat on a sofa that was prepared for guests. Oh, Issei, it is pleasant to see you. How are you? Aquino spoke as soon as Issei took a seat. I was fine, until someone dragged me out of the classroom, but now that I am here it is also pleasant to see you, Aquino. Issei replied with a bit of a hidden smirk as Aquino giggled a bit. Cough, Aquino, if you would please bring us tea, that would be wonderful. Rias told her quickly as she felt a bit bullied verbally. Oh my, of course, I will bring it immediately. Aquino replied before bowing a bit and leaving to get the tea. So are we going to wait for Aquino, or are you going to tell me now why you dragged me out of the classroom? Issei questioned while leaning forward, his tone getting just a tiny bit sharper, and his eyes started to have a bit of blue in them. We will wait for Aquino, there is no rush. Rias answered him, not noticing or ignoring his slight change. And from the looks of other two they did the same. Heh, Indra, you really outdid it, they still don't feel any power from me. Issei praised his father, who only chuckled in return. But of course, now, why don't we have some fun with them, my son? Indra asked Issei, and that suggested that Issei was more than happy to make. Hee, leave it to me, I'm going to make them piss their pants. After a few minutes, Aquino finally returned with the tea set and light snakes that Issei was so impressed with that he complimented the beauty, making her blush. Though now that she was here it was time to get to business, since he still needed to hurry up his plans so that he doesn't have to face the wrath of Orlean. So, can we finally start? I have other things to do, you know, Rias? Issei finally said after being ignored by the redhead, and that was slowly starting to piss him off. Oh yes, sorry, I was just in thought, and was enjoying the tea. But you are right, it is time to talk. Rias apologized as she put her cup down, and turned totally serious. Okay, so what do you want to talk about? Issei feinted innocence, and from the looks of it they both it. How was your date with Yema, Issei? Anything happened on it? Rias asked, making Issei look at her with a question mark above his head. Date with Yema? What date? I am already seeing someone, and it ain't that raven, Issei said, looking agitated at the thought of dating that BDSM and deliberately saying fallen without exposing that he knew her identity. You were not? Strange, I was sure you liked her, and you decided to date her. Why would you meet her at the fountain if you didn't? Rias questioned, ignoring the raven part, though Issei caught a slight frown from Aquino which confused him for a bit, but he let it slide. Now, I am interested. Something doesn't add up here. First, why did you suspect I would go out with her? Second, how did you know I meet her at the fountain? Third, why are you so interested in me all of a sudden? And fourth, how and why my classmates think I was dead and were pale when they saw me, and you were in panic? Also, let's bunch something else also, since I am in a real hurry. Why did the devils allow and feign ignorance about fallen in their territory no leaves with the intention to kill him? Issei questioned, sounding annoyed since Rias was dancing around. So, he decided to just jump to the point, as he felt that Vela had already finished the job Issei asked of him in secret. What? What did you just say? Rias questioned in shock, hearing Issei exposing them easily. Making Aquino and others put up their guards and bring their weapons or magic up. Come on, it is easy if you can feel just a bit of magic. In this room, there are 2 low-class devils, a high middle-class and a decent high-class devil. An average fighting strength if you consider that on magic alone, though in melee it is meh, only that little kid could be considered a powerhouse, while that blonde is more speed type, am I correct? That would mean that you are trying to recruit more people to you. How you do it you don't care, but oh well, it is your choice in the end. Though you did make a bad one with me, Issei said as he let a bit of his natural power out, making the devils tense. And what are you then, Issei Hayadu? Aquino questioned as she lifted her hand towards Issei that was crackling with electricity. Oh, I am someone who is in a hurry to deal with something before someone comes to visit me and not kill me in a process, Issei said with a chuckle, seeing their confused faces before they again turned serious. I am demanding to know who you are, Issei. You know a lot of us, and I doubt I can just let you out of this room knowing our secret, Rias said as she unleashed a bit of her power to intimidate Issei. Please, you think that puny power will scare me? Ha ha ha, I saw and felt worse by my wives, and that is not including others. Issei laughed before calming himself. But since you insist to know, sure, why not? Issei said as he stood up, making everyone battle ready, only for their fighting spirit to be squashed the second later. I am Issei Hayadu, a joker in service of Lady Gabriel, husband of Mirana Hayadu, an ace in Lady Gabriel's service, and a wilder of SG that hold the power of Master of the Sky, and nature Indrogner, the ancient dragon, the emperor of the dragons. At your service, Princess Rias Gremory of the 72 Pillars of Hell, Issei said in a calm tone as he unleashed all his power along with his dragons, producing 6 pairs of wings from his back, though instead of them being feathered, they were all dragon. Sky blue in color and well armored with scales that shined with power. Shock and fear were evidently present as the devils were stiff as a board. It wasn't easy for them to do anything as they stared down a 12-winged angel/dragon hybrid who was way beyond their league. But in the nature of Rias Gremory, she swallowed her saliva and put on an angry face as she stared down a monster in every possible way imaginable. And what is a high-rank angel doing in my territory? You do know that this will not go unknown to my brother. Rias growled as she shouted at Issei, who just looked amused by the scene in front of him. What are you talking about? I am back home after 12 years. I do have the right to return to my hometown after all. Not even devils, fallen or even angel can forbid that as long as I don't start anything. But if I am threatened, then it is a different story. I mean, I could kill you all and not be accused of anything if I provide evidence that I was in peril by a foreign side. Like how you just happened to send your familiar to give me this little thing. Issei said calmly as he fished out a pamphlet that had a clear Gremory symbol on it that made Rias flinch as she saw it. From your reaction, I can see that I am right. And leave your brother out of this. I mean, if you are a high class, show some backbone and not go with my brother card. Issei told her in a matter-of-fact tone before he pocketed the circular in his pocket. Still, you need to inform me about this before you enter my territory. And I want an explanation as to why you are here and who else is here, Rias demanded as she tried to at least get something her way. Though she was still going to inform her brother, and all of that. First of all, the one who is in charge was informed and gave his blessing, so too. Your brother knows, and so does Leviathan, and she is all good with it as long as we don't start anything to endanger their sisters. Issei responded as he took a sip of tea. What do you mean we? Aquino asked as she thought that he was alone. Yeah, now that Aquino pointed out who else is here that I am not informed. That would be my wife, of course. Issei replied as if it was the most natural thing in the world. Why, you have a wife? Rias stumbled on her words a bit as she was shocked to hear this, and from the looks of it, everyone else in the room. Didn't I say her name at the intro? But since you are a bit slow from the looks of it, yes, I have a wife. Her name is Mirana Shadarova, an ace of Lady Gabriel. Issei said it as he looked at the pale faces of devils. Why, your wife is in top 5 fighters of the heaven. Aquino mumbled, stunned, as this was very bad for the devils. If those two monsters decided they were sick of them, they could destroy them and Sona's peerage without blinking, and so fast that even Leviathan and Lucifer couldn't arrive in time to stop them. Don't worry, Mirana and I are both content with living here, and with us here you can rest assured that we'll help in defending this city from foreign powers. After all, fallen angels are no threat to us like you devils. Issei spoke as if he read Aquino's mind. Make them sigh in relief. That said, Issei tried to continue before a magic circle appeared near his ear. Its design was of angel, which was a giveaway to who it might call him. Yes, I am now with them. No, they didn't do anything too stupid, so you can rest assured that they are alive. Come on, I am not that bad, you know. And you don't need to bring up Siberia every time you try to give me an example, you know. Yes, wait, what? How? When? Damn it, he sent who now? Irina and Zenobia? He out of his mind? Yes, I know it is no good to question it, but someone still has to. You know, when are they coming? Sure, I will be there to mediate it between them and devils. Good day, my lady, talk to you when they arrive. Issei spoke, his voice going from formal to aggregated and back to normal through the conversation, making devils look confused as, well, me? Issei shouted, scaring the devils to the core as Issei released a bit of his power. What happened? Rias meekly questioned, too scared to use her noble tone in front of an angry monster. You will hear it from your side, but no, I need to speed up plans on my side. I know, let's start with Lucifer. Issei responded before he clicks his fingers. My bro, wait, what? Rias questioned but was ignored as she saw Issei making a communication circular on a table. Though she was intrigued that it wasn't of devil's or angel's design, it only took a few moments before a small figure of Lucifer appeared on a table, looking relaxed as always in Issei's opinion. But he put that thought to side for now. Sirzek's been a long time, hasn't it? How are you doing? Issei spoke after looking at the man. Well, if it isn't heaven's wrath, I've been busy as always. You? How is Mirana? Did you accommodate well in Co? Sirzek asked as he laughed at the nickname that the supernatural gave Issei, which made him growl a bit. I told you not to call me that, didn't I? Oh, mighty Siscon of hell, the crimson Lucifer, the ever Siscon. Issei responded by his own jab, making Sirzek cringe a bit. Hey now, that is uncalled for. I mean, everyone knows how powerful you are, and which host you are too. Sirzek tried to defend himself, only to get a paper fan over the head from the side. And I see that Grafia agrees with me. Hope you are well, and still sane, haha. Issei said causally, only to see get I am fine and still somewhat sane from the background. So, why did you call Issei, and you are not at home? Serzek said after he recovered a bit from the surprise smack and was now intrigued by why Heaven's Joker called him. Yes, I am now at ORC. And I am calling you because some urgent things happened, and are about to happen. Or wait, Issei said before the calm cut off and a magic circular appeared in the ORC room, making the beyond shocked devils even more shocked. Do I really need to describe Serzek and Grafia? Honestly, Grafia, how can you still be with a man like him? If I did half the things he does, Mirana would kick my sorry ass and divorce me a long time ago, Issei said with a sigh towards the beautiful bombshell who just lowered her head with shame as she knows what Joker was talking about. I have no response to that. He does have his good sides, though when Rias is involved, he is out of it. Grafia responded towards Issei, who smacked his head before deciding that Serzek is going overboard. Well, if you ever need time off, I am more than sure that Mirana would love to have you over at our house for a week and whatnot. Issei told her, making Grafia chuckle a bit. I will think about it, but thank you for the offer. I will talk to Lady Mirana at length when the opportunity arises. Grafia responded with the dignity of a head of a house that made Issei chuckle a bit, but now he had a more important thing to do. Thanks Satan, you are alive, Rias, and your peerage. Serzek said, completely ignoring Issei and Grafia who were talking about him. Brother, what are you doing here? And how do you know that angel? Rias questioned, trying to peel her brother off her, while her peerage had smiles on their faces as this was normal to them. When I heard Issei said he was here, Serzek tried to answer only to be shocked by the lighting from Issei, who now had narrow eyes and was starting to turn blue. Serzek, I know you would love more than anything to talk, pet and whatnot, your little sister, but I think this is more important, don't you? Issei growled a bit, letting his aura out, making the Lucifer a bit stiff from both the shock and piss of the dragon. And Grafia's look didn't help, as she was also starting to get pissed off too. Why yes. Good, want to talk here or at my house? Issei questioned, making Rias wide eyes, that this angel attacked her brother, and he didn't even try to retaliate. Brother, how could you let this angel attack you and not fight back? Rias wanted to say more but was stopped by Grafia of all people. Issei hideout didn't attack him in the first place, only sting him a bit. Second, if both of them fought here, Ko would be destroyed in seconds and everyone here, including you Princess Rias, would be dead. I will survive but would probably be crippled in the process, and would need time to recover. As for those two idiots, they would burn themselves out after a few days. Grafia calmly told her, making Rias and her group pale. Nah, let's have it here. I am not dressed to go to your house, nor is Grafia, wouldn't you agree? Serzek responded to Issei's questions, making the man nod. Sure, I have no problem being here, though would you mind if I call Morana here? Issei questioned, before Grafia and Serzek tell him to go ahead. Awesome. Issei responded before he took a cell phone, and after a short talk a magic circular of angel design but with the head of a dragon appeared, and out of it came Mirana. And boy, as soon as she appeared in her casual clothes, which consisted of plain blue shirt with short pants and plain shoes, Rias and her peerage were in awe at how beautiful and powerful Mirana was. Even in her plain house clothes, she was a beauty who easily rivaled even Grafia, who was considered as the most beautiful woman in hell, and her power was easily in a range of ultimate class. Though the most shocking thing was the casual way she greeted and spoke to Serzek and Grafia as if they knew each other for a long time. Well, I hope, Grafia, that our boys didn't cause you too much headache, Mirana said as she took a seat next to Issei while Grafia stood behind Serzek. Fortunately, both are behaving for now, though knowing then it is only a matter of time. Grafia responds before going to get the tea for them. Come on. I am not that bad, and don't you dare mention Siberia, Issei said in exhaustion before he angrily poked Mirana on a cheek when she was about to open her mouth, making her smirk in amusement. Now that you mentioned it, I heard it was a tough battle and a devastated one for the surroundings. I remember even Michael calling me to tell the people it was a meteorite that hit it so that you and whatever was you fighting would not be exposed, Serzek said in a casual tone as Grafia returned with tea. Yes, we were ready to go and see what was making the underworld shake and from where that power was coming. Even an army division was ready and all peerage of the Four Mouths was in a high alert, but when Michael called we made an announcement that it was a hit. And left it that way, Grafia added, Issei wishing he wants to disappear but sadly he couldn't. Fine, but that was in the past. Now we have other more urgent things to talk about. Like, why did your sister allow a group of fallen into her territory, and why did she shadow me for the last few days? Issei questioned, making his eyes glow blue and an armor piece forming on his with a blue crystal that was shining. It was clear as day that he was pissed beyond reckoning, and was barely holding his rage within. In Issei's opinion, it better be some extremely good explanation, or there would be hell to pay. What do you mean, Issei? Serzek said in shock as he looked at the Heaven's Joker with eyes wide. Don't play dumb with me. You know what would happen even before it's going to happen. You knew something about this, so now I am seeking the explanation, and it better be a good one, or should I go ahead and start and release that? Issei questioned, his tone not giving any room for Lucifer to wiggle his way out of this, all the while Mirana and Gabriel stayed silent. After all, this was between two men who happened to be both their husbands and leaders of their factions in some cases, so it was natural to let themselves settle this. Gabriel, you know something? Mirana decides to ask the Silver Beauty. I cannot confirm nor deny. Sorry, Mirana, but this is something I don't want to get involved, and I hope you understand. Gabriel answered her honestly as Mirana nodded her head in understanding. So, Lucifer? I am waiting, though for how long that is something I can't tell you. Issei pushed for an answer as more power was released, making some devils cringe, while Surzek keep his composure, not beaking it even when Issei's gears started to shine brightly. Seeing that the situation is about to get ballistic, Mirana and Gabriel did what they could to defuse it. Mirana quickly took Issei's hand and started to squeeze it to break his deadlock look on the Devil King, while Gabriel put her hands on Surzek's shoulders. How about we go home, Issei, and let them sort some unexpected stuff that just occurred between themselves? We need to focus on our end, and you need to prepare, don't you? Mirana suggested strongly as Gabriel did something similar on her end towards Surzek, while she froze the ORC from preventing them from escaping. After all, pissing off a heavenly dragon and from the angel faction was not something that could go unpunished no matter how much they wanted. Fine, I see your point. Oh yeah, before I forget, Lady Gabriel informed me that some Excalibur swords were stolen and that she suspects that the culprit is hiding here. Lord Michel is sending 2 members of the church here to retrieve it. I will talk to you when they arrive here, Issei told Surzek before disappearing in his own teleport, not noticing the pain and angry expression on Blonde's face. Why did you stop me from getting my answer? Issei asked as he pined Mirana on the bed, making the blonde blush heavily. You were getting too angry, Mirana answers honestly. And this is a better situation. Both of us can let some steam off and enjoy it. Mirana somehow managed to lift her head enough to whisper it in his ear before her lips were assaulted by Issei's. You just want to have as much as you can before Jeanne arrives, don't you? You perv. Issei asked with a grin as he saw Mirana going completely red. Aye, muttered Mirana, not finding a way to defend herself from his correct assumption. Don't worry, I am going to make sure both of us are satisfied. Issei whispers in her ear as he bites it lightly, making the second strongest female in heaven moan in pleasure. You better, dragon boy, or you would have me telling Jeanne and then helping Hera no fair. Mirana threatened only to moan in pure pleasure. All is fair in love and war, dear. You should know this the best. My Russian war maiden. Issei chuckled as he continued. I know that very well, my sky wrath. If I didn't, you wouldn't be mine now. Mirana replied as she hungrily took his lips in a tight look. Sex will be in some other chapter, hehe. A few days have passed since the meeting between the Heavens Angels and ORC with Lucifer, and things were tense, especially now since 2 members from the church arrived for Issei. It was tenser since he received word from Jeanne that her trip was pushed forward and she will be coming in 2 days. And after the arrival of 2 church members, it was more troublesome than anything. Honestly, how could the 2 of you up so badly? Issei questioned as he looked at the kneeling Irina and Zenobia, who were sweating profoundly. Irina tried to say but couldn't. After all, she was in the presence of the most powerful non-leading class angel, Lord Issei. Irina here thought a lot of. Zenobia tried to explain, only to be stopped by Issei lifting his hand. I don't want to hear it, and stop with that, Lord BS. Do you know who is behind this crap with swords? Issei told her, making Zenobia nod. Good, now explain please. I would like to know who I am going to fight most likely. Issei calmly told her, feeling a headache about to turn up to 10. With that, Zenobia told Issei everything that she knew about this crisis, as well as what information she received from church and heaven. All in all, Issei was signing so hard and his head hurt so much that he was ready to take so much hard drinks to just knock himself out, and wake up the next day and pretend it never happened, but it was not to be. Well, after this I am asking Lady Gabriel for a pay rise. I mean, with this level of BS. First fallen angel tries to kill me, now someone, most likely Kabile, is about to try to start the war. Great. After this, I am off to Havana to enjoy some RR for sure, Issei muttered angrily. And Jeanne is coming tomorrow, so she will no doubt be involved in this. Yup, we need a vacation, Mirana added, making Issei fall face first, effectively making the church girls shrike in horror as they saw him fall. While Mirana just laughed seeing this. Don't worry, he is fine. He has a thing for drama, Mirana quickly said, making the girls calm just a bit. Though that didn't stop her laughing. Tomorrow is going to be a long day. ORC's main room was tense, as someone would expect. With Rias and her group along with Sona and her peerage in attendance, Issei honestly was a bit surprised that Sona didn't freak out, but that was probably because she was more informed than Rias and from the info she received from Redhead. On the other side, Irina and Zenobia were as cold as they could be, though with Issei and Mirana with them they are very confident that they were in power terms way ahead. Why are we watching this again? Issei questioned as he looked at the lineup that was about to square off. Because that blonde knight was aggregated by Excalibur, and that red dragon emperor wants to show off or something like that. Mirana said as she looked almost bored. Oh well, at least I can see what kind of power he has, though from what I can tell he is about the strength of at least one, maybe two wings angel full power. Issei added, making Mirana look at him confused, but he told her that Booster Gear has a few tricks up at his sleeves that can be devastating to anyone, but he didn't go into too much explaining, making Mirana just accept his answer. After all, who knows better about his future opponent than the great king of dragons Indrogner? The Red Dragon Emperor was a fine man, around Issei's age. He had teal hair and silver eyes. He was in a somewhat white blazer with blue/teal stripes that stood up from the rest, but because he was foreign it was accepted, though in Issei's opinion, it was most likely that Rias strong-armed Sona for it. But nevertheless it was a cool-looking outfit, and Issei approved it in his mind. The boy also wore jeans and pair of running shoes that made him look like a bad boy, but all in all, it was nothing out of the ordinary. But the power the Red Dragon Emperor held was nothing but ordinary. Issei could tell that the boy in front of him already has the balance breaker, and that is a huge achievement. Though that only meant that the power is going to be on the rise, and honestly, Issei couldn't wait to see a battle between Valley and this emperor. It was going to be something else. Darling, I don't like that smirk on your face. Are you planning on fighting him? Mirana hit the nail on the head with this question, and Issei could only chuckle a bit, making his wife sigh in exhaustion. What can I say? We dragons love the thrill of battle and facing off against someone worthy. Now that is settled, we will finish this meeting. Those girls will have an investigation here and would bring reports to me. I will give the report to Surzek and Lady Gabriel and will see how they respond and deal with it accordingly. Any more questions? Issei said, making it clear it was an order more than anything else, but seeing as he was the most powerful of them there, and he knew Devil Lord, it was a no contest about his authority. Fine, not like we can stop you. Rias muttered to herself, but she was heard by Issei. If you continue to bitch around, I am going to make sure you are begging to return to hell before the end of the school year. Issei Trethan, making the owner of Draeg to stand in front of Issei. I would like to see you try, Angel. I will beat the shit of you. Don't forget who is the Dragon Emperor here. The teal-haired boy said as his eyes flashed emerald. You think just because I am an angel I am weak? Don't kid yourself, kid. I will give you credit for your strength and will, but didn't Draeg tell you that there are 3 more dragons that are above him? Issei said before his eyes flashed blue and a falcata appeared in his hand that was putting enormous amounts of power, flooring everyone except Mirana and Dragon Emperor, who activated his gear to counter it. Oh, looks like your reflex are very good, or was it Draeg who actually did it? Issei questioned, his tone both mocking and intrigued as he watched the blue boy who was standing strong in front of him. It took less than a moment later to get the answer to that question. The one that answered was an old powerful voice spoke. My king, it is good to see and feel your power after so many years of absence. The Welsh dragon spoke as the gem on the gear shined. I can see that you are doing well, son of fire. Though it looks like in my absence you and that brat caused a lot of trouble. Should I educate you and the white one again? Maybe this time I should be more forceful in my way of you two understand my orders. The king of all dragons spoke, his voice spoke of might and power that was still unchallenged by anyone. After all, he was one of the oldest, an elder dragon of age bygone long millenniums ago. Hearing the rage in his majesty's voice, Draeg tried to sound as calm as possible, but to those who knew to catch the smallest of things, it was clear that he was scared of Indrogner. After all, it was not a good idea to piss off the elder dragon, especially Indrogner, no matter who it was, be it Heavenly Dragon or anyone else. Hell, even gods feared Indrogner. I heard of your fights and your deeds on and off the battlefield. If it was anyone but the two of you, I would have killed and destroyed their essences a long time ago. Sadly, I am not able to do that, but that doesn't mean I cannot let my host do the pain in my stead to both you and your hosts. The almighty dragon said, his tone calm and clear, but was full of promise and power that made everyone shiver. Draeg, no matter how much he feared Indrogner, he couldn't let this provocation down. It was a blow to his pride, so in rare and dumb moments he said something that made Issei's day, and Mirana could only facepalm as she knew what the outcome of this would be. My lord, I do not doubt your power, and I do of your host. He might be an angel in service to Gabriel, but that doesn't mean he could beat my host. So why don't we test his power and his might? Drake spoke strongly and was met with silence for a bit before there was a double roaring of laughter from both Issei and Indrogner. It was rare to hear the mighty dragon laugh, especially at the challenge that was proposed to him. He might be all-powerful, but he always respected anyone who had the guts to challenge his might. But this was beyond guts, this was dumb, and both he and Issei knew that, and as soon as Issei saw Mirana rolling on the ground holding in her laugh, it was a floodgate opening in. Issei was also on the ground laughing even harder, while holding his sides since it started to hurt. Though while two angles were on the ground laughing hard, everyone else was in confusion, not seeing anything funny at this. Though that was until Mirana stopped laughing with tears in her eyes and slowly got up. You really think you could beat the second Joker of the Heavens and strongest members second only to Seraphs, and that is if they aren't go all out? Please give me a break. Though tell you what, how about you fight me instead, and if you manage to beat me you can have a crack at Issei. How does that sound? Mirana said while looking at her husband for approval of this small skirmish. Issei, seeing that it wouldn't be fair for only him to have fun and that Mirana hasn't fought against an unknown opponent in a while, he just nodded his head, making Mirana smile sweetly at him before her smile turned predatorial as she looked at Red Dragon Emperor. So what is your answer, lizard? I am sorry, Indrogner, if I offended you with this, Mirana said before quickly apologizing to Elder Dragon, who just laughed. Do not worry, my daughter Jeanne, Issei and you are the only ones. I do not find it offended by hearing that, as I know it is in a banter manner. Though that said, you have my permission to use that if you find it necessary, Indrogner said with a hearty laugh as Mirana's eyes shined with delight as she stretched her hand towards Issei. Give it, it is my turn to have some fun, Mirana said as her grin started to get feral, as she was glad that she had Elder Dragon's protection from falling out of heaven as she can be however she felt, and no worries about it. Seeing his wife was rearing to go, Issei sighed as he summoned a small sword like a gladius that was blue as midday sky and sharp as a razor. Just don't go overboard, alright? Issei said, but it sounded more like he pleaded, but to the ears of the Red Dragon Emperor and devils it was unheard. Don't worry, I know what I am doing. Now little lizard, time to play, Mirana answered Issei before she turned towards the Dragon Emperor, and her smirk becoming sadistic and cruel. Thanks for watching this video. If you really enjoy this video, like, subscribe, and comment down below, and turn on that bell notification. Don't forget to support and follow the Slavic warrior for writing that awesome fanfic, and also make sure to comment on this story, link in the description. See you in the next video. Goodbye.